Medieval prosthetic hand. During archaeological work, a skeleton with a rare iron prosthetic arm was found near Freising in Bavaria. This amazing prosthesis dates back to the late Middle Ages or early modern period and was discovered near the parish church of St. George. The find was sent to Munich for detailed study. The prosthesis was intended for the left hand, missing 4 fingers. Apparently, it was covered in leather and contained a soft padding at the base, and the fingers were made of non-ferrous metal. Although such prostheses were rare, about 50 examples of similar products have been discovered in Central Europe. These ancient prosthetics demonstrate the attempts of doctors of the time to help people who had lost limbs, especially amid numerous military conflicts such as the 30 Years' War. One of the most famous prosthetics was created for Gotz von Berlichingen, a knight who lost his arm in 1504. His story inspired Goethe to write a play. Both of Goethe's prostheses have survived and are now in the family castle in Baden-Württemberg. Obsidian mirror. Ancient civilizations in Mexico used obsidian mirrors or tezcatls as divination tools. Looking into the depths of the mirror, the sorcerers were transported to the world of gods and ancestors. Obsidian mirrors can be seen as a metaphor for the images of ancient Mexican monuments. They reflect not only the object, but also the person looking. The main accessory of the supreme Aztec god Tezcatlipoca is an obsidian mirror. His name translates to smoking mirror. He is often depicted with a mirror on his chest, wearing jewelry, or in place of his right leg. Tezcatlipoca was the ruler of the night and its creatures, primarily the jaguar, which according to beliefs could move between the earthly and underground worlds. In 1969, American artist Robert Smithson visited Mayan ruins, following the path of writer John Lloyd Stevens. Despite traveling through Mayan territory, Smithson claimed to embody Tezcatlipoca. This experience inspired him to create a piece of art in which he used mirrors to illustrate time travel. In the early 20th century in Mexico City, Augustus Genin, a Mexican collector of French origin, amassed an extensive collection of pre-Columbian artifacts. Ancient Mexican mirrors from his collection survive to this day in various shapes and sizes. Sometimes they were reused, inserted into Christian crosses, or as symbols of vanity. Devil's tracks. On the night of February 8, 1855, mysterious hoofprints appeared in the snow of Devon. They could be seen on rooftops, fields, and narrow streets from up to 100 miles away. The journey of the tracks was not interrupted even in front of obstacles in the form of walls or rivers. Many believed that these were traces of Satan himself. These tracks, also known as devil's hooves, left behind an inexplicable path. The prints resembled those of a donkey, but their placement suggested a bipedal creature. Each track was about 8 centimeters wide and about 10 centimeters long, and the distance between them was from 20 to 40 centimeters. The tracks extended throughout the Devon region, including the ex-estuary area. One of the most unusual aspects was that the tracks appeared out of nowhere and then disappeared. Sometimes they paused at a pile of hay to resume on the other side. In the Times newspaper of February 16, 1855, these marks were called Satan's prints. Many quickly linked this phenomenon to the Prince of Darkness, especially when footprints appeared on doorsteps and around churches. Some people believed the tracks were fake. Some considered possible sources of traces of cats, hares, mice, and badgers. However, no animal could leave marks on the roof. Of course, there were aliens. Some associated the tracks with UFOs or sea monsters. Scientist Mike Dash suggested that there could be different reasons behind the tracks. However, the exact origin of the tracks still remains unknown. Some continue to believe that it was Satan who wandered Devon on that fateful night in 1855. What do you think about this? Write your opinion in the comments. Toothbrush from the time of Frederick the Great. In Potsdam, the capital of Brandenburg, researchers have discovered traces of early modern industrial activity, including the remains of 3 mills that operated from the mid-17th to the mid-19th centuries. These mills were associated with a noble estate, on whose territory the first carriage depot in Germany appeared in 1838. This depot served to service the first Prussian railway line between Berlin and Potsdam. Later, its area increased significantly. The depot existed for more than 150 years and closed in 1999. Now, the territory is intended for the creation of an innovation center. According to Christoph Krauskopf from the Office for the Protection of Monuments, there is a map from 1863 that shows the mills. In addition to the foundations, the researchers found details of the water supply system from the Newt River. Other finds included fragments of tiles with the monograms of Prussian monarchs, shards of ceramics, clay whistles, and a wooden toothbrush. Light-skinned, blue-eyed giants. For centuries, there have been rumors about giant people who lived on Earth in the distant past. Bone finds around the world support these myths. One of the most mysterious places with such finds is Santa Catalina Island off the coast of California. Santa Catalina is a small, cozy island near Los Angeles, part of the Channel Islands archipelago. Its history begins with the settlement of the Gabrielino Indians about 7,000 years ago. After them, both Spaniards and Mexicans visited here until the island became part of the United States. The story of young Ralph Glidden, who moved to the island in 1896, deserves special attention. After finding an Indian skull, he became interested in searching for ancient relics. Growing up, Ralph conducted many archaeological excavations, finding over 800 graves and many artifacts. He sold these relics to museums and private collectors. The Catalina Island Museum, founded by Glidden, is known for its unique exhibits. Among them, the skeletons found by Glidden became especially popular. But the greatest resonance was caused by his application for the discovery of the remains of people 270 centimeters tall. According to him, they had a European appearance, blonde hair and blue eyes. One of the amazing finds was the skeleton of a girl surrounded by the remains of 64 children. According to Glidden, the remains of more than 3,000 people were discovered on the island. Most of them were tall, which was not typical for the Indians. In 1913, German-born physician A. Furstenen discovered an 8-foot skeleton in Avalon Bay, along with artifacts including a stone with symbols. But when trying to extract it, the skeleton collapsed, leaving only part of the bones. The press actively responded to such reports. The Ogden Standard-Examiner newspaper wrote about Glidden's findings in 1929, claiming the existence of an ancient tall race on Catalina. In addition, it was said that on the nearby island of Santa Rosa, skeletons with double rows of teeth and 6 fingers and toes were discovered in 1959. Furstenen also heard legends about an ancient race of giants on Catalina who lived before the arrival of Europeans. However, Glidden's sensational findings on Santa Catalina remained in question for scientists from around the world. Most scientists believed that he was looking for funding for his research, and rumors said that the skeletons in his museum were only high-quality fakes. According to some sources, part of the giant skeletons was sent to the University of California and the Smithsonian Institution, where they disappeared into secret storage facilities. Archival photos allegedly depicting these skeletons are controversial. There is an opinion that they are fake, but researcher L. Marzulli claims their authenticity, noting the presence of a 6th finger on one of the hands. In 1962, sensing his impending death, Glidden sold his collection for just $5,000. He passed away in 1967. Today, the question of who Ralph Glidden was, a master of hoaxes or the discoverer of a mysterious civilization, remains open. Unfortunately, no convincing scientific evidence has been found for the existence of giants on Earth along with humanity. Cannonballs from Dracula's army. Count Dracula is known to many as a bloodthirsty vampire who hunts his victims with the help of supernatural abilities and sharp fangs. However, the real person behind this name, Vlad the Impaler, was far from the mythical image created by Bram Stoker. Ironically, the real Vlad preferred to use cannonballs rather than fangs. Recent excavations in the town of Svishtov, Bulgaria have uncovered cannonballs that may have belonged to Prince Vlad III, also known as Vlad the Impaler. This ruler, who became the prototype of the legendary Dracula, was known for his brutal methods of warfare, especially against the Ottoman Turks. A particularly interesting moment in his military career was the conquest of the Zishtov fortress in Svishtov. Recent archaeological finds of cannonballs likely indicate that these cannonballs were used by Vlad during this siege. These cannonballs were designed to fire culverins, early cannons used in the 15th and 16th centuries. Vlad the Impaler tried to retake territory captured by the Turks, who had controlled the region since Roman times. After successfully conquering the Zishtov fortress, Vlad turned it into his residence. Although artillery was an important part of his siege tactics, his sinister reputation stems from his preference for executing his enemies by impaling them. Visby lenses. A favorite pastime of archaeologists and historians is playing what if. Many moments from the past, even seemingly insignificant ones, could radically change the course of human history. For example, what if the so-called Visby lenses fell into the hands of an early medieval scientist and he began the study of optics in Europe 500 years earlier? The Visby lenses are a collection of high-quality optical lenses found on the Swedish island of Gotland in 1999. They date back to the 11th and 12th centuries and are made of quartz. Some lenses show signs of alteration, probably for mounting in the silver frames that make them so recognizable. These lenses are reminiscent of the reading stones of Abbas ibn Firnas. This suggests that the lenses were produced in the Byzantine or Islamic empires, then brought to Scandinavia and remade to suit local tastes. Lenses of this type could be used as magnifying glasses for reading or for viewing the details of objects. They could also serve as decoration. Interestingly, when compared with modern lenses, the image quality of antique lenses is almost as good. However, the origin of the lenses remains a mystery. The appearance and disappearance of these lenses in the Scandinavian world raises questions. Did they buy the first lenses or receive them as trophies? Did an Islamic or Byzantine artisan come to Gotland? Or was it the creation of a brilliant inventor from Gotland? Regardless of the origin of the lenses, the question can be asked. What if they had fallen into the hands of the inventor who created the telescope 500 years before Galileo? What if Vikings could explore our solar system? What if the science of optics had begun to develop 500 years earlier? Rune stone from Rioka. An ancient runic inscription on a stone found in southern Sweden at Edishög is the longest in the world. Many experts believe that this is an epitaph in memory of the warrior Vamuda created by his father. However, Swedish scientists who studied the text concluded that the stone also reflects fear of the coming climate crisis, in particular global cooling. Researchers suggest that the text refers to the consequences of the cold snap of 536, which caused famine, mass migrations, and conflicts. This crisis could have caused the Scandinavian population to halve. The text also mentions battles under the reign of Theodoric, possibly referring to Theodoric the Great. However, scientists believe that there may be an additional subtext: the struggle between light and darkness, life and death. According to archaeology professor Bo Graslund, the text can record terrible natural phenomena such as a solar storm or an eclipse. They could provoke fear of the approach of Fimbulwinter, the apocalyptic winter from Norse mythology. Varna gold treasure. The oldest processed gold was found not in Egypt or among the ancient Sumerians, but in Bulgaria, near Varna. Some researchers consider the Varna culture to be the first European civilization. Radiocarbon dating also confirmed the antiquity of this gold. It was dated to the 5th millennium BC. Gold was accidentally discovered in the 1970s by excavator operator Ryko Marinov, who was later even awarded. Research at the site continues, and approximately 300 graves have been discovered so far. Gold finds from Varna indicate extensive trade relations of the ancient Varna culture, which may have exported rock salt. Interestingly, shells of the mollusk Spondylus were found in the graves, which could have served as money. Notable finds include a golden boomerang, believed to be an Australian invention, and gold-plated pottery. The two golden bulls are striking in their ratio, reminiscent of the golden ratio, and are associated with the principles of constructing the Cheops pyramid. Scientists also highlight the similarity with the English Stonehenge. There are 56 protrusions on the amulet in the form of a golden bull. The same number of round holes were found in Stonehenge. Fascinating coincidences of history, isn't it? The golden treasures of Varna number more than 3,000 artifacts weighing a total of 6.5 kilograms, the bulk of which were found in 3 special graves, including grave number 43 with the remains of a possible ruler. This man was impressively tall for his time, 1.75 meters. Buried next to it are a variety of gold objects, appliques, rings, necklaces, objects that could be symbolic images, as well as weapons and tools with gold details. In addition, the grave contained many objects made of copper and other materials such as stone, flint, and shells. Of particular note is a bracelet made of gold cylinders, considered the most ancient of gold items, and grave number 36, where over 850 gold artifacts were discovered. These items confirm the burial of a person of royal family. The story of a condemned man. The justice system is not without flaws. Sometimes innocent people end up behind bars. However, the story of Will Purvis is an example that miracles do happen. In 1893 in Mississippi, Will was accused of killing a neighbor due to a sudden quarrel. Purvis confirmed the existence of a conflict between them but categorically denied murder. He had no defense witnesses. The jury sentenced him to death. When he was taken out of court, he exclaimed, "I will outlive you all." It seemed like empty words back then. However, when he was led to execution in 1894, something incredible happened. The noose did not block his breathing and the rope came undone. The crowd decided that this was a sign from above. The sheriff, sensing the tense situation, took Will back to prison. Despite appeals, the verdict remained in force. Will's friends did not leave him. They organized an escape. The change in power and public support did their job. Will was offered life imprisonment instead of the death penalty if he surrendered. Purvis agreed, and later the public began to put pressure on the governor so that Will would be completely released from responsibility due to the lack of evidence of his guilt. The governor had to agree. As the years passed, the truth came to light. On his deathbed, a certain Joseph Beard admitted that he was the killer, not Purvis. Will, whose name was cleared due to many circumstances, passed away on October 13, 1938, just a few days after the death of the last of the jurors who sentenced him to death. Giant hearse. Archaeologists have discovered a unique funeral cart in a double burial near the city of Dongfeng in northern China. The found fragments of the hearse, which is about 7 meters long and more than 2 meters wide, date back to the Liao dynasty. Although part of the cart has collapsed, many of the iron elements decorated with gilding have survived in excellent condition. In the second tomb, archaeologists found more than 30 artifacts, including silver and copper jewelry, as well as gilded bells. These finds will help to study the unique burial rites of the Khitan people, the creators of the Liao state. Interestingly, some scientists believe that the Russian name for China comes from the Khitan people. Slab with Mayan glyphs. Archaeologists from the National Institute of Anthropology and History have discovered a huge stone panel carved into the bottom of a sacred pool in Coba, on the Yucatan Peninsula in the Mexican state of Quintana Roo. Coba, an ancient Mayan city, flourished between 500 and 900 AD and reached a population of about 50,000 people. Recent excavations have revealed a monumental panel with 123 Mayan glyphs carved into the bottom of a sacred pool near the 42-meter-high Nohok Mul Pyramid. The glyphs form an L-shaped figure over an area of over 11 square meters. Epigraphic studies have revealed the name of the previously unknown ruler of Coba, Kawil Chakchin, who adopted the name of the lightning god Kowil. The glyphs also mention the founding of the city of Kewitznal in 569 CE and dynastic rulers such as Bolon Sakabahau. Archaeologists are currently working to preserve the eroded site and create a 3D reconstruction for future research. Oldest calendar. Archaeologists have made a stunning discovery in Göbekli Tepe, Turkey, when they discovered the world's oldest calendar dating back 12,000 years. The discovery could change our understanding of early civilizations, as it shows that humans were able to measure time as early as 10,000 BC. This was long before the rise of ancient Greece and other known cultures. The calendar is carved into a stone column and contains 365 markings, indicating 12 months with 11 extra days. Symbols including the letter V can be seen at the top of the column, while the bottom depicts a bird holding a round object and a scorpion. These images may represent the sun and the zodiac signs. Research also points to a connection with a comet, which caused a cold snap that lasted 1,200 years. This event would have had a devastating effect on large animal species and may have caused significant changes to the region's ecosystem. Historians believe that such catastrophic events may have been a catalyst for the emergence of new religions and the development of agriculture, which in turn led to the formation of the first civilizations. Ancient inscriptions of the pharaohs in the Nile. Archaeological divers at the bottom of the murky waters of the Nile in Egypt examined algae-covered rock formations. At first glance, the stones seemed unremarkable. However, upon closer examination, scientists discovered several inscriptions associated with the ancient pharaohs. A joint team of Egyptian and French archaeologists decided to explore the ruins in the reservoir in Aswan. Under a layer of algae, they found several carvings that were at least 2,300 years old. The images ranged from drawings of ancient Egyptian pharaohs to hieroglyphs. The photo shows several well-preserved carved figures. The shapes are blurred by water and quite difficult to distinguish. One set of lettering appears to be a row of mannequin heads above two objects that resemble tombstones. These ancient inscriptions are still being studied. Archaeologists believe that these finds will help to better understand how the ancient kings ruled in those distant times. Ritual table in Tava Tepe. In Azerbaijan, a team of Italian and Azerbaijani archaeologists discovered a 3,500-year-old ritual table in the ancient settlement of Tava Tepe. This place is located near the borders of Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan. During the excavations, a round-shaped adobe building was found. The structure includes a kitchen area and a ritual table. Between 1500 and 750 BC, late Bronze Age and early Iron Age, nomadic peoples probably used Tawa Tepe as a resting place before traveling through the mountains. Archaeologists found a ritual table with 8 recesses and many ceramic containers, bowls, vessels made of black-fired ceramics, and long flat stones for mixing food. In the corner of the kitchen there is a thick layer of ash and clay tokens with fingerprints which could serve as food coupons. The entrance originally had wooden columns and a thatched roof covered the entire complex, which was about 15 meters in diameter. Animal bones and discarded pottery were found outside. The human figurines placed in the sacrificial pits and the fact that the structure was sealed along with all the utensils indicate its ceremonial nature. Pyramid on the site of a volcano. The Great Pyramid at the Mayan site of San Andres was built in response to the eruption of the Tierra Blanca Joven volcano in the Lago Ilopango caldera. San Andres, located in the Zapotecan Valley in the department of La Libertad, El Salvador, was founded around 900 BC as an agricultural center that became the capital of the Mayan state between 600 and 900 AD. The eruption of Tierra Blanca Joven, which occurred around 539 AD, was one of the largest volcanic events in history, ejecting about 43.7 cubic kilometers of volcanic material. It caused significant climate change and devastated an area with a radius of up to 100 kilometers. Dr. Akira Ichikawa of the University of Colorado Boulder noted that due to the scale of the disaster, many settlements were abandoned and it took a long time to rebuild them. However, research in San Andres, just 40 kilometers from Lago Ilopango, has shown that construction began several years after the eruption. The start of construction of the La Campana Pyramid dates back to just 30 years after the eruption, and its completion took about 80 years. The pyramid, 7 meters high and with a volume of 23,000 cubic meters, was the largest structure in the valley. Dr. Ichikawa suggests that the pyramid was built using volcanic ash as a material and had religious significance associated with the worship of volcanoes in order to protect against future eruptions. Ancient Slavic cemetery in Germany. Archaeologists from Saxony-Anhalt, Germany have made an important discovery, having discovered a medieval Slavic settlement and cemetery near Wetten-Lobezun. The finds were made in preparation for the construction of the underground SuedoSlink power line. The excavations revealed a 1.2-acre settlement dating back to the migration period and the early Middle Ages, 5 to 10 the centuries AD. The settlement went through 2 stages. In the early stage, it was fortified with a 4-meter-wide moat, and later individual farmsteads with 0. 5-meter-wide moats appeared. Among the artifacts found were a pearl and a bronze bracelet. An important part of the settlement was the crafts quarter, where bog iron ore was mined and textiles were made. 2 wells were also discovered, providing the settlement with water. A cemetery with about 60 graves from the 10th to 11th centuries, arranged in 2 lines, was excavated near the settlement. Most of the burials were made according to Christian traditions, with the bodies facing east. Among the finds, a family grave and the burial of a child with hydrocephalus stand out, which testifies to the care of the community. New species of dinosaurs in Siberia. In the Kemerovo region, Russian scientists discovered the skeleton of a dinosaur which turned out to be a previously unknown species. It was named Kia cursor longipes, which means long-toothed runner from the Kia River. The fossils were found after a huge rock fell from a rocky cliff with petrified bones sticking out of the rock. The skeleton was found on the territory of the Great Siberian Refugium, where relics of the Jurassic period were preserved: stem salamanders, primary crocodiles, and docodonts, primitive mammals. The fossils were studied using X-rays, Connecticut scans, and microscopes. It turned out that the dinosaur lived in Siberia from 113 to 121 million years ago. The skeleton was partially preserved. Ribs, vertebrae, a humerus, both feet and legs, were identified. The specimen was classified as a ceratosaur, a group of running dinosaurs with two small legs. This is the first such discovery from the Cretaceous period in Asia. Until now, it was believed that ceratosaurs became extinct in this part of the world 40 million years earlier. The unique proportions of the hind limbs with an elongated third digit allowed it to run better. Zoologists determined that the dinosaur grew to 2.5 m in length and was an adult animal, but no older than 3 years. Sunken ship with lead ingots. About 2,000 years ago, a Roman ship sank in the Mediterranean Sea with valuable cargo, including massive lead ingots. The heaviest of them weighs 68 kilograms, which is about 205 Roman pounds, according to the University of Alicante. Markings on the ingot indicate that it belonged to a Roman emperor, possibly Nero. In addition, there were about 3,000 cans of fish sauce on board the ship. This sauce, known as garum, was popular in Roman cuisine and was widely used as a seasoning. The ship was about 32 meters long and was probably en route from Cadiz to Rome when it sank. The ship not only carried valuable metals but also foodstuffs important to the Roman diet. Exploring the shipwreck provides a unique opportunity to study the shipbuilding technologies and trading methods of the ancient Romans. Incredible luck. A farmer from the Indian town of Pani, Dilip Mistry, found a 16.10 carat diamond in a private mine that was valued at over $70,000. Mistry and 3 companions were hoping to find gems, but did not expect such luck. Local gem expert Anupam Singh confirmed the authenticity of the find, and now the diamond will be sold at auction. Of the proceeds, 12.5% will have to be given to the government as a royalty, and the remaining money will be divided among the 4 bidders. Videos posted online show Dilip proudly showing off the shimmering diamond and then handing it over to a district officer. Mistry said he plans to use his share of the money to improve the family's financial situation. Notably, this is not the first time a farmer has found diamonds. He and his partners have previously found gems, although Mistry has not said how much they were worth. 16. The Century Compass. Archaeology enthusiasts have discovered a 16th century compass in the northern Polish town of Frombork, where the famous astronomer Nicholas Copernicus lived and worked. A local museum has suggested that the instrument, which is only the 3rd such find in Poland, may have belonged to Copernicus himself, the creator of a revolutionary model of the universe where the sun, not the earth, is at the center. The compass was found in the canonical gardens of Frombork by 2 groups of archaeological enthusiasts led by professionals. The compass was found in the garden where Copernicus conducted his astronomical observations. In a post on social media, they noted that the find not only takes us back to the era of Copernicus's great discoveries, but also opens up new possibilities for understanding his working methods. The choice of the canonical gardens for the excavation was based on a legend about the existence of a tunnel that connected Copernicus's workplace with the city's cathedral. The compass is made of copper alloy and dates back to the 16th century. The artifact will undergo conservation work, after which its future will be decided by the local curator of monuments. The museum hopes that this valuable object will be added to its collections. The first compass was found in 2005 in the courtyard of the Collegium Novum of the Jagiellonian University in Krakow. The second was also discovered in the canonical gardens of Frombork in 2016 and is already in the museum's collection. Copernicus, born in 1473 in Turin, lived in Frombork for 30 years, where he served as a canon and conducted astronomical observations. Last meal. Researchers from the UK have studied the mummy of a crocodile caught in ancient Egypt. A fish with a hook was found in the stomach of a 2-meter predator, which caused the death of the reptile. The mummy, 3,000 years old, is housed in the Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery. During the time of the pharaohs, animals were often mummified, especially crocodiles, which were considered sacred. Using X-ray and computer scans, scientists virtually removed the hook and recreated a replica of it in bronze. Scans showed that during its lifetime, the crocodile had swallowed many small stones called gastroliths, which help break down meat and regulate buoyancy. The last prey died before reaching the stomach and was not affected by digestive enzymes or gastroliths. Scientists believe that the crocodile was specially caught using live bait, after which it was mummified as an offering to the god Sebek. Hjort Spring Rook. The boat was found in the Hjort Spring Bog in Denmark and is the oldest planked ship in Northern Europe, dating back approximately 2,300 years. The boat is almost 20 meters long, weighs 530 kilograms, and could carry 24 people with weapons and equipment. The boat's planks were made of basswood, the oars were made of maple, and there were curved extensions at each end. This boat is an outstanding example of ancient shipbuilding, showing the high level of craftsmanship and engineering knowledge of the time. Linden was chosen for its lightness and strength, which made the boat fast and maneuverable, and maple for the oars, for its hardness and stability. Giant War Memorial. Archaeologists have discovered a 4,000-year-old memorial monument at the site of Banabazi in Syria that resembles the ancient Egyptian step pyramid at Saqqara. Known as the White Monument for the white sheen of its building materials, the man-made mound was first examined decades ago. Recent research has shown that around 2400 BC, the pre-existing mound was modified and expanded with a series of horizontal steps, each containing at least 30 burials sealed with layers of plaster. Ancient Mesopotamian texts mention war memorials where the bodies of enemies were piled up, although no such monuments have yet been found. However, the White Monument at Tel Banat appears to have served as a memorial for the settlement's inhabitants, rather than for enemies who died in battle. The discovery challenges some traditional ideas about Near Eastern archaeology. The monument was comparable in size to the step pyramid of Djoser at Saqqara, but was built of earth rather than stone. The burials at the White Monument were carefully placed, according to ritual customs, alongside military equipment, sometimes alongside missiles and animal skins. This fact indicates that the community sought to honor its warriors by creating a memorial in their honor. Terracotta water pipes. Archaeologists have discovered a 2,600-year-old terracotta water pipe at the ancient site of Kiladi in Tamil Nadu, India. The discovery highlights the sophisticated water supply systems of the civilization that flourished there thousands of years ago and adds new evidence to the urban planning and engineering skills of the Sangam people. Kiladi, located 12 kilometers from Madurai, was first discovered in 2014. Since then, the site has become important for the study of the Sangam period, which spans from 300 BC to 300 AD. Over the past decade, more than 20,000 artifacts have been found at the site, indicating an advanced society that excelled in brickmaking, beadmaking, and terracotta ware. The newly discovered cylindrical terracotta water pipe, according to the Tamil Nadu Archaeological Department, consists of 6 sections, each 36 centimeters long and 18 centimeters wide. These sections were carefully joined to form a 174 centimeters long water pipe. It is believed to have been used to transport drinking water, demonstrating advanced hydraulic engineering skills. The discovery also adds to our understanding that advanced engineering practices were not limited to northern India, but also to the southern regions, indicating a more technologically advanced ancient India than previously thought. City in the heart of the Sahara. Central Sahara in Niger is a territory practically inaccessible to people. Any tourist traveling south from the Mediterranean coast faces a huge number of obstacles. Giant dunes, sweltering heat, and drying winds create a landscape almost devoid of life. But those who penetrate the depths of the Great Desert are in for a surprise. Surrounded by sandy canyons on a lonely plateau are the ruins of the huge fortified city of Jado. These ruins, which range in age from 800 to 1,000 years, are a mystery. The city appeared when this part of the desert was much more humid and fertile. Little is known about the inhabitants of these places, and who built this city remains unknown. The fortified city of Jado is a Ksar, a typical North African fortified settlement. Such settlements typically consist of residential structures built around a central food warehouse, with an emphasis on defensive functions. Cassars like Jado were built from palm trunks covered with an adobe mixture, hardened by the desert winds to the hardness of metal. What sets Jado apart from most similar cassars is its incredible size. The colossal fortress rises above the desert, making the rest of the landscape insignificant. The Kanuri people who inhabit the desert in the center of the Sahara were the last known inhabitants of this place. Perhaps they inherited the city from an older culture about which no data has been preserved. The turning point that forced the Kanuri to leave Jado was probably the drying up of drinking water. As the green landscape turned into desert, the water became brackish and the environment too harsh for survival. People lived on the Jado Plateau for about 60,000 years, leaving rock paintings and other evidence of their presence. Small cattle were bred here as early as 7000 BC, and cattle appeared around 3500 BC. Rock art discovered in the Air Mountains is approximately 5,500 to 4,500 years old. They depict a world with dense vegetation and an abundance of animals, completely unlike the modern landscape. Today, getting to the once great city can be difficult. This part of the world is unstable, and the tribes inhabiting the area are constantly fighting for limited resources. The Kanuri now live in the nearby desert village of Chirfa, but return to their ancestral site every year to harvest the dates. Strangely, the date palms continue to bear fruit. Kanuri is a remnant of the ancient Kanium civilization, which reigned in the central Sahara from 700 to 1300 AD. The origins of this empire are shrouded in mystery, and it is unknown whether Jado was founded during this period or even earlier. If the Kanem built Jado, then excavations can reveal a lot about this culture. But if they inherited it, perhaps someday they will be able to discover something else, hidden from human eyes and protected by the desert, to reveal all its secrets. Fingerprints of an ancient man. Archaeologists have discovered an astonishing Iron Age statue with the well-preserved fingerprints of its creator, offering a glimpse into the lives of our ancestors more than 3,000 years ago. The ancient clay figure, dating back to the 9th or 10th century BC, was found at the bottom of a lake in Italy and is believed by experts to have ritual significance. The discovery was made in Lake Bolsena, a volcanic lake where archaeologists found a clay sculpture resembling a palm-sized female figure. Such figurines are usually found in burial tombs, but this one was discovered in an area that was once the habitation area of a submerged settlement. A team from the Underwater Archaeology Service and the Italian Cultural Heritage Restoration Team, together with state divers, played a key role in preserving and recovering the artifact. Researchers say the statue is so well preserved that the fingerprints of the artist who created it are visible. This suggests that the sculpture may have been a trial version rather than a finished piece. The discovery also sheds light on the ancient Italian village of Iola, which scientists believe existed during the Iron Age. The Gran Caro di Bolsena region where the discovery was made is associated with volcanic activity and has a rich history, the study of which only began in 1991 when researchers discovered a cluster of rough stones believed to belong to the early Iron Age. A salt block instead of money. An ancient mural found at Calakmul, a UNESCO World Heritage Site on Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, depicts the first documented instance of salt trading among the Maya more than 2,500 years ago. Depicting daily life, the mural shows a salt vendor showing a customer a salt block wrapped in leaves, while another person holds a large spoon over a basket, presumably containing loose salt. It is the earliest known depiction of salt being sold in a marketplace in the Maya region. Salt, an essential biological element and a means of preserving food, was a valuable commodity among the Maya because of its limited availability. Salt blocks could be easily transported by canoe along the coast and up rivers in southern Belize. Louisiana State University, LSU archaeologist Heather McKillop discovered the first remains of ancient salt kitchens in 2004, submerged and preserved in a salty mangrove lagoon in Belize. Since then, she and her team have examined 70 sites that comprise a network of buildings and rooms known as the Paynes Creek Saltworks. McKillop's team found 4,042 wooden posts, a canoe, a paddle, a high-quality jadeite tool, stone tools for salting fish and meat, and hundreds of ceramic vessels. By examining the ceramic vessels used to evaporate the brine, the researchers found that they were standardized in volume, indicating the production of uniformly sized salt units possibly used as a medium of exchange similar to money. Ancient Roman supermarket in the ocean. Archaeologists have discovered an ancient Roman supermarket in the Channel Islands off the coast of France, where various goods were traded. Research began in 2008 and resulted in the discovery of 2 Roman coins pointing to this discovery. One coin shows Caesar as a teenager, another shows the emperor killed by the invading Goths. The island of Alderney, the northernmost of the Channel Islands, may have served the Romans as a trading post. Archaeologist Jason Monahan noted that remains of Roman buildings, including a grotto, were found here, indicating a continued Roman presence. They could monitor the ships bringing goods from the Mediterranean to France. Archaeologists believe that Roman soldiers lived on the island, controlling trade routes and protecting them from pirates. Families of soldiers and Roman officials may also have lived here. In 2017, using electrical equipment, Iron Age burials and parts of a Roman building were discovered on the island, confirming long-term occupation. Excavations revealed that the Roman-era building had 3 rooms: a courtyard, a paved area, and a rubbish dump where one of the coins was found, Antoninian, dating back to 255 AD, equivalent to 2 denarii. In another layer of the building was found a bronze coin of the Roman co-emperor Valens, dating from 367, who was killed at the Battle of Adrianople. The remains of a Roman fort were discovered approximately 27 meters from the building. Archaeologists believe many more Roman-era buildings may be hidden beneath the sand dunes, creating the effect of a mini Pompeii. Twice the weight of a whale. The prehistoric cow lived approximately 40 million years ago in water. German paleontologists from the State Museum of Natural History in Stuttgart discovered its remains in the south of Peru, where there was an ocean in prehistoric times. 13 vertebrae were found, each weighing 100-weight, 4 1.5-meter ribs and a giant femur. The excavation site was a shallow bay that divided the equatorial part of the continent in half. Scientists have determined that the remains belong to a creature that lived about 40 million years ago. The creature weighed approximately 340 tons. This makes it the heaviest animal to ever exist on Earth. Even the giant brontosaurs were lighter. After studying the find, scientists came to the conclusion that these huge creatures swam slowly, dived shallowly, and fed on what they found at the bottom: algae, mollusks, and small fish. In their lifestyle, they resembled sea cows, which people exterminated in the 18th century. Outwardly, they most likely also looked like sea cows, although in fact they were ancient whales of the genus Basilosaurus. The oldest shopping list. When going to the store, many of us make a list of the necessary products on a piece of paper or in the notepad of our smartphone, but it was not always so. During excavations in southern Turkey, archaeologists discovered a unique clay tablet with Akkadian cuneiform, which turned out to be the oldest known shopping list. This document, created 3,500 years ago, gives us an idea of the daily life of the inhabitants of that time. The tablet was found in the ruins of the ancient city of Alalak, which attracted the attention of scientists in the first half of the 20th century, but due to the war, excavations were suspended and resumed only in the 2000s. Recently, after the earthquake of 2023, another clay tablet was discovered during restoration work in Alalak. It is 4.2 by 3.5 centimeters in size and 1.6 centimeters thick. Deciphering the inscriptions revealed that it was a shopping list, including wooden tables, chairs, and stools. The document also mentions the names of the buyer and sellers, making it an important source for understanding trade and everyday relations in the 15th century BC. According to Turkish archaeologists, this is the oldest shopping list that has survived to this day, and it is of great value for the study of the history of the ancient Near East. Ancient stone circles in Saudi Arabia. Archaeologists in Saudi Arabia have unearthed 8 ancient stone circles that served as habitations for people more than 7,000 years ago. Some 345 such structures have been identified through aerial photography in the Karat Uwairid lava field near the city of Alula in northwestern Saudi Arabia. The stone circles range from 4 to 8 meters in diameter and include at least one standing stone in the center. During excavations, archaeologists discovered many stone tools made of basalt. Almost 225 kilograms of stone tools or their fragments were recovered from only 5 circles. Bones of sheep, goats, and cows were also found. The finds included a variety of seashells from the Red Sea, located about 120 kilometers to the west. The round shape of houses was a global phenomenon in early architecture, and rectangular houses appeared later in the Neolithic period. The architecture of standing stone circles in Saudi Arabia is similar to structures found in Jordan, dating back approximately 500 years. The people who built these structures also raised sheep, goats, and cattle. One of the most mysterious peoples of Europe. This altar is one of 4 known Larage altars, but the only one found during excavations. The artifact was discovered at the bottom of a well in the Donis Tebe monastery. On the altar there is an inscription: Valeria Vitella fulfills her vow to Lare freely and deservedly. Mount Archaeology, inhabited since Roman times, is located in the valley of the Gulina River near Pamplona. Its strategic position has made the site important throughout history, as evidenced by the remains of Roman infrastructure and the later monastery dedicated to Saint Stephen. Little is known about Larak. Only 3 other altars testify to the worship of this deity. The new find expands the known geographical distribution of the Larage cult. Human blood on ancient mask. A gold mask from the Sican culture found on the northern coast of Peru contains traces of human blood. The Sican culture, which existed from 750 to 1375 AD, is known for its luxurious gold crafts, including funerary masks that were created during the Middle Sican period and often accompanied the elite in their tombs. In the 1990s, archaeologists excavated the tomb of one such elite. It contained a skeleton sitting upside down, painted bright red with cinnabar, with a gold mask covering a severed skull. Around the skeleton were the skeletons of 2 young women in labor and nursing positions, as well as 2 children. In a recent study, scientists analyzed the paint on the mask, identifying 6 proteins from human blood, including serum albumin and immunoglobulin G. Proteins from egg white, presumably from a Muscovy duck, were also found. Researchers believe that the presence of blood symbolized life force and could be linked to the idea of rebirth of the deceased. Buddha statue in Egypt. As part of a joint American-Polish archaeological expedition, scientists made a startling discovery at Berenice, an ancient Roman-era Egyptian port city on the Red Sea. During the excavations, researchers found a marble statue of Buddha almost a meter high. The Buddha is depicted holding his robe in one hand, while the other part of the statue is missing. The background of the statue is decorated with a mandorla, symbolizing the enlightened mind with traced rays of light. In addition, there is a blooming lotus at the base. The dating of the artifact indicates the one Sate II in centuries AD. This find provides evidence of commercial relations between Egypt and India in ancient times. Such connections may have begun even before the 4th century BC. Another prince of ancient feet. Archaeologists in South Africa have discovered footprints that could change our understanding of the daily lives of early people. The footprints discovered at Kleinkrans may have been dated to between 79,000 and 148,000 years ago. They have features that indicate that people of this era used shoes. Why did scientists conclude that it was shoes? The absence of toe prints and the presence of clear edges indicate that the person was not barefoot. The footprints may have belonged to ancient hominids of average height. The researchers recreated the scenario using sand sandals to see if they would leave similar marks. The results were convincing. The sandals created similar marks, especially on wet sand. This conclusion may seem trivial, but it has profound historical implications. In those days, a traumatic wound on the foot could have been a deadly threat. Shoes could serve not only as protection from sharp objects, but also as a precaution against environmental hazards. However, despite all the evidence, scientists are in no hurry to confirm that it was shoes, given the difficulty of interpreting the prints and the lack of actual samples of such ancient shoes. This discovery changed archaeology. The 600-year-old Nebra sky disk remains one of the most enigmatic archaeological finds. Inscribed on the UNESCO Memory of the World Register in 2013, this artifact is striking in its design and complex manufacturing technology. Recent research conducted in Germany has shown that the disc was made using a 10-stage hot forging process. Each stage involved heating the metal to 700 degrees Celsius and stress-relieving treatment. This data was obtained using modern techniques such as X-ray spectroscopy and microstructural analysis. Attempts to reproduce the technology have shown that the ancient original methods were superior to modern processing methods. The Nebra sky disk is not only a unique artifact but also proof of the advanced metallurgy knowledge of the time. Cave paintings of Valcamonica. In the Valcamonica Valley located in northern Italy, there are over 200,000 cave paintings created by various cultures over the past 8,000 years. These engravings provide unique evidence of ancient civilizations, depicting their rituals, social structure, and daily life. However, among the many traditional images of animals, dancing people, and symbols, there are several engravings that are of particular interest to researchers. Some of them look like figures dressed in strange costumes, reminiscent of spacesuits with details similar to helmets, antennas, and other devices. These drawings have given rise to much speculation. Some argue that they may have been created after contact between the ancient inhabitants of Valcamonica and alien civilizations. Such theories often rely on the appearance of these figures, arguing that ancient people may have depicted extraterrestrial beings or even astronauts they encountered. However, most scholars are inclined to believe that these engravings may represent ritual or symbolic images, perhaps associated with religious beliefs or rituals of the time. Here, scientists always have one opinion. If a find cannot be explained, it means it is connected either with something extraterrestrial or with an ancient ritual. Gold necklaces in an unusual place. At the end of August, in the province of Asturias, Spain, Sergio Narciandi accidentally discovered a unique piece of gold jewelry while working on a pipeline in the municipality of Cavandi. At first glance, Sergio realized the value of the find. In front of him was an ancient torque, a neck decoration symbolizing high social status. Soon, archaeologists arrived at the discovery site. These artifacts, experts said, could be key to understanding the Iron Age, revealing the secrets of pre-Roman societies. These decorations will help us delve deeper into the cultural, technological, and social aspects of that era. Estimating the age of the jewelry, scientists suggest that they are about 2,500 years old. Torques, traditionally made from precious materials, are most often associated with Celtic and Germanic nobility. Experts noted the high level of craftsmanship inherent in these ancient jewelry, which opens new horizons for the study of artifacts of this time. Parasite eggs, 200 million years old. Modern parasites are known to play a key role in ecosystems. However, paleontologists from Mahasaracham University, Thailand, have made breakthroughs in understanding their historical presence. After examining the fossilized excrement of ancient animals, they found ancient parasites in them, including Ascaris roundworms. The discovery follows reports of the revival of an ancient worm from Siberian permafrost by Russian scientists. Working with coprolites dating back about 200 million years, scientists discovered structures consistent with 5 types of parasites. Interest in these fossils stemmed from locals in Thailand who considered them good luck talismans due to their unusual shape. This is the first known example of parasites in a terrestrial vertebrate from the late Triassic period in Asia. It is also one of the few records of preserved roundworm eggs in coprolites of ancient animals. These parasites were found in the excrement of what appeared to be a phytosaur or other crocodile-like reptile from the Triassic period. The find strengthens our understanding of how parasites interacted with their host in ancient times. Mysterious mask. A strange iridium artifact found in Florida challenges traditional ideas about ancient civilizations. According to researchers, this object is 12,000 years old and is made of iridium, a metal that is extremely rare on Earth and most often found in meteorites. The artifact is striking in its delicacy and skillful processing, which suggests that the ancient craftsmen had technologies that were significantly ahead of their time. An image is engraved on the surface of the object, reminiscent of the deity Viracocha, known in the Inca culture as the creator of all things. According to legend, Viracocha came from Lake Titicaca, bringing light and knowledge. This image may be evidence of a connection between ancient peoples and an extraterrestrial civilization, which would explain the use of rare meteorite material to create this artifact. Historians believe that this object was stolen by Spanish conquistadors in 1715 and taken away on the ship La Concepcion. The ship sank in a storm, leaving much of its cargo, including other artifacts, on the ocean floor. The mask washed up on the beach and is believed by experts to be just a small part of the $5 billion lost treasure. The Fat Lady of Saliagos. The Fat Lady of Saliagos represents a unique testimony to the ancient culture that flourished in the Cyclades Islands during the Neolithic era. Its discovery revealed many secrets about the lifestyle, religious practices, and artistic traditions of this ancient society. Saliagos, despite its small size, was of key importance in the early history of the Aegean region. In addition to its role as a connecting isthmus between Antiparos and Paros, it was a center of production and trade, as evidenced by finds of obsidian tools in excess of local needs. Ceramic vases discovered on the island provide insight into the design and style of the era. Their patterns and shapes reflect creativity that may have had religious or cultural significance to the people of Saliagos. Overall, the discoveries at Saliagos provide invaluable information about the ancient world of the Aegean region. Early Iron Age cremation burial. During the expedition to Hallstatt-Salzburg in Austria, many new finds were discovered. The most remarkable of these is a cremation burial containing well-preserved bronze objects. While studying the metal finds, scientists discovered surprisingly well-preserved remains of fabric. Hallstatt is famous for its salt mining, dating back to prehistoric times and giving its name to the Hallstatt culture, a people who emerged in the late Bronze Age. The burial is located in an Iron Age cemetery first opened in 1846. In 1863, archaeologists discovered more than 1,000 graves at this site. Among the finds are a ribbed hand ring, spirals of thin wire, and a bronze blade with traces of a wooden handle. The finds were tightly packed into the grave. Archaeologists have identified traces of fabric on the spiral discs, which may provide the first archaeological evidence of the use of textile bags for cremated remains. Art and relics with cosmic features. Over the centuries, humanity has created art and relics which sometimes represent figures with unusual cosmic features. These images have become the subject of discussions and theories related to the possibility of contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations. One of the most famous examples is the ancient images in the Indian Vedas, which describe flying machines known as vimanas. While most researchers believe they represent mythological or symbolic images, some claim they are evidence of ancient technology or even extraterrestrial intervention. In numerous ancient cultures from Egypt to Central America, statues and reliefs have been found that depict figures with unusual helmet-like headdresses or other cosmic attributes. These images are often associated with gods or great rulers who could descend from heaven. Another example is the art of the ancient Sumerians. Some of these images represent creatures that some theorists argue could be interpreted as extraterrestrial. However, most archaeologists and art historians argue that such images are the result of religious beliefs, mythology, or symbolic art rather than evidence of contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. Whatever the true meaning of these images is, they serve as a reminder of the richness and depth of human imagination and our desire to understand and interpret the unknown around us. Elongated skulls. The mystery of the elongated skulls of Paracas continues to stir heated debate among scientists and researchers. These elongated skulls, discovered by archaeologist Julio Tello in 1928 on the Paracas Peninsula in Peru, date back approximately 3,000 years. The skulls are unusually shaped, and although similar finds have been found all over the world, from Rome to the Caucasus, the Paracas skulls are particularly surprising. It is believed that the elongated shape of the skulls was the result of deliberate manipulation, such as tying special bands or boards around the heads of infants. This process, known as cranial deformation, was common among many ancient cultures. Even today, it is practiced by some African tribes. However, it remains a mystery what exactly motivated people everywhere to engage in this practice. One popular hypothesis is that people sought to imitate the gods or guests from heaven who, according to legend, had elongated heads. Another version says that such a shape of the skull could enhance the perception of cosmic energy, which allegedly contributed to spiritual or intellectual development. The peculiarity of the Paracas skulls lies not only in their shape, but also in their volume and structure. Research shows that the volume of the skull is larger than that of ordinary people, and the structure of the bones is different. These anomalies give rise to theories about the extraterrestrial origin of the owners of such skulls. The skulls may belong to representatives of another race or hybrid creatures about which we know little yet. Climate of the ancient world according to wooden tablets. Researchers have uncovered the secrets of the climate of the past thanks to an unusual source: ancient mummies. In Roman times, wooden tablets were attached to mummies, and it was these small details that turned out to be the key to unraveling the weather of those times. It wasn't just names engraved on them. The rings on the tree turned out to be a living chronicle of the climate. Drought years, narrow rings on the tree become their witnesses. But to get a complete picture of ancient weather, one tablet is not enough. Fortunately, many such artifacts have survived. Museums around the world hold thousands of them, and it's interesting that they are from different tree species. The latest study took 300 of these ancient climate records. This helped scientists get closer to understanding the weather conditions of the eastern Mediterranean in the areas of what is now Lebanon, Greece, and the Nile River. However, the date of each climate change remains a mystery. Perhaps the answers lie in radiocarbon dating. Remains of an ancient market. In Northampton's Market Square, archaeologists have discovered unique finds that open new pages in the city's history. Among them are a possible punishment post and traces of an unknown market hall. A team from London's Museum of Archaeology found fragments of medieval shoes, textiles, ceramics, and animal bones. In the center of the square, they found a stone building, possibly a market chamber. Another building may predate the creation of the market in 1236. The discovered structures may be depicted on a 17th century map. In the south of the square, they found the Great Conduit, built by Edward IV. They also found a medieval pillar that could have been used for punishment. After the research, the structures will be closed, and the found objects will be stored in the museum. A mystery in the Amazon jungle. Padre Carlos Crespi Croce, an Italian missionary who spent most of his life serving in Ecuador, became one of the most enigmatic figures of the 20th century thanks to his extraordinary collection of artifacts. Working with the Shuar tribes in the Ecuadorian jungle, he acquired many ancient objects that some researchers believed could be evidence of an ancient, highly advanced civilization, and perhaps even contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Crespi's collection included strange metal plates engraved with symbols reminiscent of ancient writing, figurines depicting creatures with unusual features, and objects that many described as technologically sophisticated. Of particular intrigue were metal reliefs depicting creatures with elongated skulls, stars, and scenes reminiscent of space travel. Interestingly, there were no known civilizations in the region that could produce such complex items. Rumors about the collection spread after some visitors, including researchers, claimed to see evidence of extraterrestrial influence in it. Some of the artifacts were said to be made of metals that could not be identified. Crespi, however, was not looking for fame. He claimed to accept these items from local tribes in exchange for aid and food. The collection's connection to extraterrestrial civilizations becomes even more interesting when considering the mystery of the tunnels beneath Ecuador that are the subject of legend. The tunnels, known as the Teos system, are said to contain a library of metal books. Some theorists suggest that these tunnels were a base for an ancient race, possibly of extraterrestrial origin. The Crespi collection could have been part of these treasures. Unfortunately, after the death of Padre Crespi in 1982, the collection was destroyed by fire or stolen, and its fate remains unclear. What do you think? Could a missionary become the custodian of traces of an ancient space civilization hidden in the Amazon jungle? Tales of the Star People among the Indians. In the culture of many indigenous peoples of America, there are legends about star people, who, as these legends say, arrived on Earth from outer space. These mythological tales embody ancient encounters between the continent's indigenous people and creatures from distant stars. Such stories are especially vivid in the culture of the tribes of the plateau of North America. According to their beliefs, star people not only visited Earth but also passed on knowledge to the Indians, helping them adapt to life, teaching them farming, healing, and even spiritual practices. One of the legends tells how the Star People descended to Earth on sparkling silver discs, attracting the attention of the Indians with their light and sound. These newcomers were friendly and imparted wisdom and knowledge to the tribe. There are also legends that some of the Indians went into the sky with the Star People and returned back, enriched with new knowledge and experience. Interestingly, these tales share similarities with myths from other cultures around the world. However, while for most researchers these stories are just myths born of human imagination and the need to understand the universe, others argue that they may provide evidence of ancient encounters with extraterrestrial life. Exposing the aliens from Peru. The world community was shocked by the news about mummies from the Nazca Desert, presumably of alien origin. After a high-profile presentation in Mexico, many media outlets paid attention to them. But according to Peru's Minister of Culture, Leslie Urteaga, things weren't that simple. These remains, she said, date back to the pre-Hispanic period. As it turned out, these are ancient bone remains and not aliens. But journalist and ufologist Jaime Mawson claims the opposite. He is confident that the 60 centimeters remains, which are about 1,000 years old, are aliens. The secret of these mummies has been discussed at the state level for many years. Urteaga admitted, "We knew about this discovery much earlier. However, in Peru, there is still no clear understanding of what kind of mummies these are. The intrigue is aggravated by statements from scientists. Perhaps these are real ancient mummies, fragments of which once fell into the hands of scammers. We learned about amazing archaeological discoveries and mysterious traces that aliens could have left in ancient times. But whatever it really is, such research reminds us of the richness and complexity of our history." New alien mummies. In 2017, something unusual was discovered in a Peruvian cave. A dried-out Voldemort-like figurine with 3 fingers and an elongated skull attracted the attention of the entire world. An army of experts, including journalist and ufologist Jaime Mawson, were the first to study it. He even claimed that there were rare metals and alloys inside the mummies, like space implants. While scientists were arguing, the mummies found friends. 2 new finds, nicknamed Paloma and Antonio, amazed everyone. 3 fingers, slanted eyes, and an age of about 1,500 years. CT scans showed that their organs were similar to human ones. Traces of a knife blow were found on Antonio's body, and remnants of hair were found on Paloma. Hairy aliens are something new. No one to eat corpses. The Zoroastrian Tower of Silence on Malabar Hill, a sacred site for the Parsi community, is under threat due to the dwindling vulture population in the area. The birds play a key role in the ritual of Dominashini, the uncovering of the bodies of the dead so they can be returned to nature. However, a rapid decline in the number of scavengers in Mumbai since 2015 has put this ancient tradition at risk. The Tower of Silence, or Dakma, which is over 300 years old, is a circular structure that symbolizes eternity in the Zoroastrian faith. It is located in a 22-hectare forest. The outer circle of the tower is for men, the middle one for women, and the inner one for children. Before the body is placed in the dakma, loved ones pray in special structures called bungalows, and the remains are then carried out by kandis, special caretakers. According to Zoroastrian traditions, contact with a dead body is considered desecration, and vultures play an important role in ensuring cleanliness and maintaining natural balance. But urbanization, habitat change, and environmental problems have led to a sharp decline in the number of these birds. The processes of decomposition of bodies have slowed down, which has created difficulties for performing the ritual. The mythical gold mine. In 1929, Australia found its Indiana Jones, Lewis Harold Bell Lassiter. He claimed that 3 decades earlier he had discovered a huge gold reef in the heart of the continent. There was almost no evidence, but rumors of a missing Klondike excited prospectors and historians. In 1930, Lassiter managed to assemble an expedition and set off into the outback again. He was accompanied by a pilot, 2 prospectors, Aboriginal guides, and even a representative of the governor. However, Lassiter was sullen, confused in his stories, and reluctant to show the way. Having reached Mount Marjorie, he declared that they were lost. His companions considered him an imposter and left. Lassiter was left with only a hunter, but soon the hunter also abandoned him. As a result, Harold continued on his way alone. A year later, he was found dead in a cave. According to his diary, he died of exhaustion after spending his last months among the natives trying to survive. Meanwhile, the legend of the reef did not die out. Numerous prospectors combed the McDonnell Range in the hope of finding gold. The press discussed the mysterious Swede Olof Johansson, who allegedly also knew the way to the treasure. Later, books and films appeared. Director Luke Walker in the project Lassiter's Bones found letters from Harold mentioning that same Olaf and hinting at the lost reef. Modern research has not confirmed large deposits in the designated area, although geologist Bill DeCarly came across a quartz layer reminiscent of Lassiter's description. He believes that Harold was just retelling other people's stories. Nevertheless, the mystery of the treasure continues to excite the minds of romantics and gold hunters. The eerie secret of the Black Death. A study of an ancient Egyptian mummy has shed light on the early spread of the deadly bubonic plague in North Africa. The 3,290-year-old remains kept in the Egyptian Museum in Turin have astounded scientists. Traces of the Yersinia pestis bacterium were found in the bones and even in the intestinal contents. It turns out that this disease penetrated the region long before the Black Death epidemic that raged in Europe in the 14th century. Until now, the oldest references to the plague came from Asia, 5,000-year-old finds in Russia and materials from Europe and Asia. But the mummy from Turin has confirmed for the first time that the dangerous pathogen also settled in ancient Egypt. Scientists recalled that fleas were found in the village of Amarna, where the builders of Tutankhamun's tomb worked. They are the main carriers of the infection. There is even a reference in the Ebers Papyrus, over 3,500 years old, to a mysterious bubo filled with pus, suggesting that the plague may have spread from Nile rats to ship passengers, who eventually carried the disease throughout the Mediterranean. The Black Death thus became just a bright chapter in the long history of the plague, and it is now clear that its sinister waves swept across the world much earlier than previously thought, and Africa played a much more significant role in this process. Discovery rewrites alcohol history. The process of distilling alcohol goes back much further than previously thought. New excavations at the tomb of Liu He, the 9th emperor of the Western Han dynasty, have revealed that distillation was already known in China 2,000 years ago. Scientists have found a bronze vessel called a heavenly pot, which served as a key part of a wine distillation device. Previously, historical texts only pointed to the emergence of such technologies during the Yuan dynasty, that is, 1,000 years later. Despite his short reign, Liu He left behind an impressive legacy. In addition to the distiller itself, the oldest painting of Confucius was found in his tomb, as well as thousands of pieces of armor made of iron, copper, and lacquered leather. All this testifies to the high level of craftsmanship of the Western Han era. An experiment with a replica of the bronze vessel showed a distillation efficiency of over 70% while preserving the taste and aroma of the drink. Initially thought to have been used for perfume essences or medicine, it is now clear that its primary purpose was alcohol production. The findings provide insight into the evolution of brewing and alcohol practices, complementing historical records and revealing the potential of early Chinese inventors. Over 100,000 years old. Researchers continue to unravel the mysteries of our evolution, now discovering unusual 115,000-year-old footprints in northern Saudi Arabia. The tracks, preserved in a former mud pit in the middle of the Nafud Desert, have astonished scientists by appearing in a place where such ancient human tracks were not expected. The tracks are estimated to belong to early Homo sapiens rather than Neanderthals, confirming the migration routes of human ancestors in a changing climate. Thanks to a surprising combination of factors, the absence of strong winds and the local climate, the structure of the tracks has remained virtually intact, allowing them to be accurately dated and reconstructed as a short-term stopover by Lake Alatar during a dry period. The site appears to have served as a rest and watering place rather than a permanent settlement, as evidenced by the lack of tool or hunting traces. Some scientists believe that these tracks fit into the general migration route by which Homo sapiens moved from Africa to Eurasia. The new findings change our view of migration routes and clearly demonstrate how nature can carefully preserve the chronicle of life. A cache of royal regalia. An unexpected discovery in the dungeons of the Vilnius Cathedral shocked historians. A carefully walled-up vault with burial regalia associated with the rulers of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania and Poland was discovered. Crowns, scepters, chains, rings, and tablets belonging to King Alexander, his mother Elizabeth of Habsburg, and Barbara Radziwill, the wife of Sigismund Augustus, were found there. These items were not worn during life but were made specifically for burial ceremonies. According to researchers, the regalia were first discovered in 1931, but with the start of World War II, they were hidden deeper in the catacombs and walled up to protect them from looting. The location of this cache eluded archaeologists for decades until December 2024, when a detailed examination of all the cavities was carried out using an endoscope, comparing archival diagrams with new plans of the cathedral. In the end, the treasure was found. Barbara Radziwill, whose tragic fate became legendary, died shortly after her coronation, which made her burial regalia especially significant for her contemporaries. A half-ton space find. A massive metal ring, more than 2.5 meters in diameter and weighing almost half a ton, has fallen near a Kenyan village. The Kenyan Space Agency suggests that the fragment may have been part of a launch vehicle that did not burn up during re-entry into the atmosphere. Locals noticed the object flare up at altitude and light up before it fell to the ground. Such situations are extremely rare since most space junk usually burns up or lands in the ocean. The incident reminded people of the consequences of 60 years of space exploration and made people afraid of another fall of debris. The most outstanding discovery of the year. During excavations near the German city of Retz, scientists came across a unique brooch dating back to the 7th century. This exquisite piece of gilded silver inlaid with red garnets, almandines, is considered one of the most significant finds of 2024. According to archaeologist Detlef Jansen, the brooch could have belonged to members of the elite, since such items are most often found in rich burial complexes. The luxurious Cloisonne enamel technique used to secure the precious stones formed complex geometric patterns reminiscent of intertwined snakes. The thinnest layer of gold on the base enhances the depth of the garnet's color, and the oval shape of the brooch lends it a special elegance. It is believed that the piece of jewelry dates back to the period of the Great Migration of Peoples, 3rd–6th centuries, when extensive migrations radically changed the political and cultural map of Europe. Personal sacrifice. During excavations at Huacasao Viejo in northern Peru, archaeologists have uncovered a startling practice. Adolescents were sacrificed along with their high-ranking relatives. Genetic analysis of remains more than 1,500 years old revealed that the boy and girl were the son and niece of the Moche ruler, Sesora de Sao. Moreover, the girl's father was one of the nobleman's brothers, also buried in the same tomb. Unlike the public ritual sacrifices common among the Moche, the victims here were strangled in a private ceremony in honor of a noblewoman. Scientists speculate that such a ritual may have served to strengthen power or family ties, but the exact motives remain a mystery. Artifacts found with the bodies indicate the deceased's high status, and strangulation may have been considered an honest way to send her companions to the afterlife. For the Moche, whose temples and tombs often contain evidence of sacrifice, this is a rare case of kin sacrifice. The cost of building the Cheops Pyramid. We are used to skyscrapers that grow with the help of metal frames and modern technology, but the Cheops Pyramid, built around 2600 BC, still amazes the imagination. Its height reached 146 meters, and only by the 13th century AD did buildings appear higher. To understand how much it would cost to build such a pyramid today, historians and engineers estimated the costs of stone, transportation, salaries, crane rental, and other details. The amount is impressive, about $5 billion. After all, about 2.5 million cubic meters of limestone will be needed, for which you'll have to go to quarries, and for the interior cladding, thousands of tons of granite from Aswan, located hundreds of kilometers away. Add to this designers, geologists, fuel for transporting blocks and giant cranes. In ancient times, everything was done by hand. It is believed that thousands of free workers worked on the construction site, regularly changing teams that received decent food and housing. They moved multi-ton blocks along ramps using wooden rollers and erected a colossal structure that was surprisingly precise in its fit. Even today, it is impossible to fit a knife blade between some of the stones. According to some experts, the construction took from 20 to 27 years. About 2 tons of meat were needed daily to feed the workers, not counting grain, vegetables, and water. It is noteworthy that the project itself was headed by Hemiun, the pharaoh's nephew, who actually acted as the chief architect. It was he who coordinated the work of tens of thousands of people, which in itself speaks of the impressive organization of labor in ancient Egypt. Today, the pyramids remain not only an object of historical heritage, but also a source of eternal questions about what humanity is capable of in order to realize ambitious goals. For the Egyptians, the Pyramid of Cheops was more than just a building. It was a symbol of the pharaoh's power and the highest engineering achievement of its time, which still inspires us to bold achievements. Meteorites help win the lottery. In 2015, a bright meteor flew over Kanchanaburi, Thailand, lighting up the sky with green and orange flashes. Since then, there have been rumors that its debris has scattered around the area. In fact, meteors have visited Thailand more than once in recent years, leaving people with black stones that are believed to have magical powers. The most famous story comes from Phatthalung province. A married couple from Sirapu Adon discovered strange boulders weighing up to 20 kilograms in a palm plantation. At night, lightning struck the garden, and in the morning the couple saw burning holes with mysterious fragments in them. Having taken the gift from heaven home, they soon felt a surge of energy and noticed that they began to quarrel less. Interested neighbors noticed unusual patterns on the surface of the stones, mistaking them for lucky numbers for the lottery. This is a popular hobby in Thailand. Although there was no big win, the belief in special properties only grew stronger. Now, people often come to the owners to charge themselves with cosmic energy, and some are thinking about making money on such relics. This cult of heavenly stones shows how a natural phenomenon can turn into a mystical one, reflecting a craving for miracles and a desire to join the secrets of space. The last refuge of the lonely woman. From 1835 to 1853, a Nicolaso woman lived alone on San Nicolas Island, the furthest island in the English Channel. It was this story that inspired Scott Odell to write Island of the Blue Dolphins. When her people were evacuated due to the threat of otter hunters, the ship quickly sailed away, leaving the young girl alone. According to some accounts, she jumped into the water to save a boy. According to others, she was left behind by a strong storm. In any case, she lived in isolation for the next 18 years, eating seals, roots, and shellfish. Fishermen often spotted a mysterious figure on the shore, but they were unable to catch her. Finally, trapper George Nidiver and his companions, seeing fresh tracks, found this brave islander dressed in a skirt of green cormorant feathers. The woman turned out to be friendly and cheerful, although she spoke a language that no one understood. Her entire tribe had disappeared by that time, and attempts to communicate were limited to gestures and original chants. She lived with Nidiver for 7 weeks, then fell ill with dysentery and died, having managed to accept Christianity under the name Juana Maria. Artifacts found later, harpoons, hooks, shell jewelry, testify to her way of life and craftsmanship. San Nicolas Island today serves as a military base, and the fate of a lonely woman remains one of the most touching stories of survival and fortitude. Hidden medieval stories. Iceland has a rich literary history dating back to the Middle Ages. Here on an island with a population of just 380,000, many people write books following traditions that began with the Vikings. Scholars believe that the Skalds, Icelandic poets, not only glorified the kings of Norway, but also laid the foundation for epic prose and vast bodies of knowledge. Medieval texts, from royal sagas to theological treatises, were written on expensive calfskin parchment, vellum. When a book aged, its materials were often reused, the text was cut out for new entries, or covers were made from the scraps, and sometimes even church mitres. In particularly rare cases, palimpsests appeared, parchments on which the old text was erased or scraped off, and new text was written in its place. This practice became especially widespread after the Reformation of the 16th century, when Latin services were replaced by Icelandic. But fragments of the old are often visible beneath the new writing, and modern methods make it possible to unravel the mysteries of a bygone era. Child finds Neanderthal tool. 3 years ago, 6-year-old Ben picked up an unusual stone on a Sussex beach. He forgot about the find when he got home, but it later turned out to be a 50,000-year-old Neanderthal axe. When Ben's family contacted James Sainsbury, curator of the Worthing Museum of Archaeology, he expected to see an ordinary cobblestone. But one look confirmed its uniqueness. This is a hand axe of late Neanderthals. They are extremely rare because at that time their population was small. The museum has only one such example, and the new find, judging by the state of preservation, lay underwater for a long time. Researchers date this period to the end of the existence of Neanderthals in Europe when they were already occupying British lands. Probably the stone was carried along with pebbles from the English Channel, or even from the flooded region of Doggerland, inhabited by people thousands of years ago. On November 24th, Ben and his parents delivered the axe to the museum. An hour later, it was on display. Sainsbury stressed that this was a rare find for Sussex. Ben's family is pleased that the accidental discovery has become a major contribution to science. A graveyard 3,000 km long. From 1840 to 1860, hundreds of thousands of settlers headed to the American West along the so-called Oregon Trail, a route about 3,200 kilometers long from the banks of the Missouri to the Willamette Valley. They crossed endless prairies, arid steppes, and formidable mountain passes, often spending more than half a year on the road. The journey was full of trials. Lack of food, thirst, disease, and unpredictable weather killed many before reaching their destination. Historically, this region, called the Oregon Territory, belonged to Great Britain, but America laid claim to it after the purchase of Louisiana and successful migration to new lands. The first expeditions of Lewis and Clark and fur trader John Astor paved the way, but it was not until 1836 that the first wagons with settler families set off along the Western Road. By 1843, about 1,000 immigrants had already formed the famous wagon train of the Great Migration, proving that it was possible to overcome such a dangerous route. However, the road easily turned into a real nightmare. Fast rivers overturned carts, cholera and typhoid fever mercilessly took lives, and careless handling of weapons led to tragedies. According to statistics, there are up to 10 graves on every mile of the trail, and now they say that the Oregon Trail is the longest cemetery in the world. Many of the monuments along it are unnamed because they had to be buried hastily, sometimes compacting the earth with the wheels of wagons so that predators would not find the remains. Thus, the legends and myths about the conquest of the Wild West are closely intertwined with the history of dramatic human destinies. Chatsworth's Great Orangery. Long before Joseph Paxton built the iconic Crystal Palace for the Great Exhibition of 1851, he honed his craft at Chatsworth House in picturesque Derbyshire. There he built the colossal Great Orangery, a giant glass house where Paxton pioneered the techniques that would later be used to build London's biggest architectural sensation. As early as the 1830s, while serving as head gardener, Paxton reimagined the landscape of Chatsworth, creating a 16-hectare arboretum and growing exotic crops like pineapples. The idea of modern orangeries was just gaining momentum, and the existing ones at Chatsworth had already fallen into disrepair. Paxton introduced a new roof design, oriented at an angle to the morning and evening sun, and an original metal frame that let in maximum daylight. This approach was quickly adopted by others. In 1836, he began construction of a grand greenhouse, 70 meters long, 38 meters wide, and almost 20 meters high. Even a couple of carriages could pass inside, and a staircase hidden behind rocky ledges led to a gallery with a view of the crowns of tropical palms. The warm climate was provided by 8 coal boilers connected by an underground labyrinth of pipes and a railway that delivered fuel. Up to 300 tons of coal were needed for the winter. However, by the beginning of the First World War, there was a catastrophic shortage of fuel, heating was stopped, and all the plants died. The great greenhouse, insanely expensive to maintain, was soon demolished. But it was here that the technologies were born that made the magnificent radiance of the Crystal Palace possible. A very expensive find. In August, Canadian mining company Lucara Diamond Corp announced the discovery of what is believed to be the second largest diamond in the world. It weighs 2492 carats. The stone was found in the Karo mine in Botswana, where another record-breaking diamond, the 1109-carat Lesedi La Rona, was found in 2015 and sold for $53 million 2 years later. The largest diamond in the world is still the famous Cullinan, weighing 3,106 carats, discovered in South Africa in 1905. To extract such impressive stones, the company used a specially developed tool, the Mega Diamond Recovery System, based on X-ray transmission. This technology is designed to find and extract huge gems that remain hidden in the bowels of the earth. The Shugborough Code Mystery. The 8-letter riddle engraved on the Shepherd's Monument at Shugborough, Staffordshire, has puzzled historians, cipher buffs, and even prominent figures such as Charles Darwin and Charles Dickens for more than 2 centuries. Between the initials D and M are the letters OUOSVAVV, and no one knows for sure what they mean. The monument itself is a loose reinterpretation of the famous painting by Nicolas Poussin, The Shepherds of Arcadia, with the Latin inscription Et in Arcadia ego, I too am in Arcadia, which gave rise to many legends about the connection with the search for the Holy Grail and the secrets of the Knights Templar. Some researchers believe that the inscription on the monument is just an elegant joke. Others are trying to read a hidden religious message in the letters. For example, American Keith Massey, an experienced Latinist and former employee of the National Security Agency, claims that the letters are deciphered as Oro ut omnes sequantur, viam ad verum vitam, which is translated from Latin as I pray that all follow the path to true life. In his opinion, this phrase refers to the words of Christ from the Gospel of John. There is another explanation. The pair D and M is interpreted as dis manibus, a Roman formula for the spirits of the underworld found on Christian tombstones. But there is still no evidence for an unambiguous version. So this bizarre chain of letters carved on a stone in the middle of well-groomed landscapes continues to excite the imagination of everyone who tries to guess its secret. Ancient Egyptian bread. The bread, estimated to be between 3,369 and 3,406 years old, was found in the tomb of an architect who served Pharaoh Amenhotep III. The bread is an amazing example of how food was preserved thanks to the advanced mummification techniques used by the ancient Egyptians. The Egyptians mummified not only their bodies, but also the food they believed the dead could use in the afterlife. The process involved treating the food with salt, drying it slowly, binding it, and coating it with resin to protect it from deterioration. The loaves show traces of their characteristic texture and shape, confirming their origin and ritual role. The bread was a symbolic and practical preparation for life after death, reflecting the Egyptians' deep belief that they would need everything they had on earth in the afterlife. It existed. Until recently, scientists believed that the grandiose project to build the capital of Assyria, Dur-Sharrukin, Khorsabad, froze in a half-finished form after the death of King Sargon II. However, new geophysical research proves the opposite. The city was completed and actively functioning. Archaeologists used the magnetometry method, which allowed them to discover the remains of an impressive 127-room villa, probable royal gardens, and a water gate, as well as other large structures. All these discoveries indicate that Khorsabad was a thriving center beyond the main palace. Conceived by Sargon II himself in 713 BC as the Fortress of Sargon, the city did not sink into oblivion after his death. New data contradicts the long-standing opinion about the unfinished project and reveals the hidden life of the ancient capital. Work resumed in 2017 after the area was liberated from ISIS. Led by the French Archaeological mission, the team used a high-precision magnetometer to visualize underground structures without expensive excavations. It turned out that Khorsabad, contrary to long-held doubts, served as a full-fledged capital of Assyria. And now modern discoveries are revealing even more about the scale and wealth of the ancient empire. Hoard of 11th century coins. At the future site of the Sizewell C nuclear power station in Suffolk, archaeologists from Oxford Cotswold Archaeology have discovered a rare hoard of 321 11th century silver coins in perfect condition. The coins were carefully sealed in a lead roll, which the researchers nicknamed paste because of its resemblance to a Cornish pasty. Archaeologist Andrew Pegg admits that his hands were shaking when he first saw the shiny edge of one of the coins. The dating of this find covers the era of 3 English kings at once: Harold I, Harthacnut, and Edward the Confessor. Most of the coins were minted in London, but there are also examples from Thetford, Norwich, Ipswich, and even Lincoln. According to archaeologists, the owner of the hoard belonged to the wealthy middle class and, fearing political change, decided to hide his savings. Most likely, he was unable to return for them or find the place where he buried the treasure. Tomb of the Magician. In Saqqara, the necropolis of ancient Memphis, archaeologists have discovered the tomb of the royal physician Teti Nebfu, who lived about 4,000 years ago. According to the surviving inscriptions on the walls and sarcophagus, it has been established that he served under the pharaoh Pepi II and held many titles: chief physician of the palace, chief dentist, director of medicinal plants, priest and magician of the goddess Selket. Since Selket patronized dangerous creatures with poison, scientists believe that Teti Nebfu knew how to treat poisonous bites. Despite the fact that the tomb was partially looted, its walls have been preserved in excellent condition and are decorated with bright paintings, scenes of offerings, a false door, ritual images. In addition to royal burials, burials of royal officials, including associates and servants of Pepi II, were previously found in Saqqara. Recently, several stone sarcophagi with hieroglyphs dedicated to the gods of Upper and Lower Egypt were also excavated there. According to experts, the splendor of Teti Nebfu's final resting place speaks to the high status of healing and magic at that time. The Egyptians had deep knowledge of anatomy, knew how to treat serious illnesses, and considered words and rituals to be as important as medicines. The mythical giant. The Cardiff Giant, a supposed petrified man 10 feet tall, was discovered in 1869 by workers digging a well in Cardiff, New York. The giant was actually a fake, made from a block of gypsum. It was taken to a farm in Cardiff where it was buried for a year before being discovered by workers. The idea for the giant was George Hull's, who wanted to prove the public's naivety and exploit people's religious beliefs about giant men mentioned in the Bible. After the giant was found, it became the subject of mass attention, with spectators paying to see it. Barnum, a famous showman, offered to buy the giant but was refused. He then created his own replica and claimed that his version was genuine and the original was a fake. In 1870, both giants were found to be fakes, but the Cardiff Giant went down in history as one of the greatest hoaxes of the 19th century. Lighthouse of Terror. Lighthouses have long been shrouded in mysticism. Their seemingly purely utilitarian task of guiding ships comes up against the unpredictable power of ocean waves. However, the Thévenet Lighthouse in Brittany, France has a particularly sinister reputation. Immediately after it was commissioned in 1875, rumors began to circulate that keepers there were going crazy or dying under mysterious circumstances, and the builders themselves allegedly heard Breton cries of, go away, this is my place." Thévenet is located on a rocky islet in the stormy Strait of Ras de Seine. For a long time, the administration could not determine the status of the lighthouse, hell for employees on the high seas, purgatory on a remote island, or paradise on the shore. Because of the small lantern, it was assigned the category of paradise with only one keeper assigned, and this despite the fact that the conditions there are extremely difficult. Over time, legends began to multiply. Some recalled an unsuccessful exorcism, others described the ghost of a sailor who died of thirst on a rock, and the writer Anatole Lebras popularized these stories. In 1910, the lighthouse was the first in France to be automated. It is believed that no one wanted to work there. Only at the end of the 20th century, historian Jean-Christophe Fichot found out that the archives of the city of Quimper do not confirm either mass madness or mysterious deaths. The gloomy howl is explained by an underwater grotto in which the splash of water mixes with air currents, creating terrifying sounds. And yet, Thévenet still remains the most cursed lighthouse in the country in Breton folklore. This video has come to an end, but you can watch a great many other videos on the channel where I talked about the most mystical finds of archaeologists and even showed evidence of the existence of UFOs in ancient times. I highly recommend watching them. Cybele on a chariot. Medallion depicting Cybele on a chariot dated to the 2nd century BC is a unique work of art of the Greco-Bactrian kingdom. This kingdom originated in the region that is now part of modern Afghanistan and was formed by the Greek conquerors after Alexander the Great. Cybele, the maternal goddess of nature and fertility, was a cult figure in a number of ancient religions, and her image on the medallion speaks to the mixture of cultures and religious practices in the Greco-Bactrian kingdom. The medallion depicts Cybele driving a chariot drawn by lions, symbolizing her dominant role in nature and the cosmos. Egyptian crocodile armor. Egyptian crocodile armor is a truly unique find. It was created from crocodile skin and was used in religious rites in ancient Egypt. During the time of the pharaohs, crocodiles were considered sacred animals and symbolized strength and power. The god Sobek, often depicted as a man with the head of a crocodile, was one of the most important deities in Egyptian mythology. It was often associated with the power of the pharaohs as well as protection and fertility. The armor, made from crocodile skin, was allegedly used by priests during religious ceremonies in honor of Sobek. Crocodile skin, in turn, was considered a powerful amulet that protected against enemies and evil spirits. Mermaid from India. Not many people have heard of the archaeological site of Chandraketugarh in India, which is located about 35 kilometers from Kolkata. Chandraketugarh was a prosperous port city involved in international trade where people lived since 400 BC before 1250 AD. Today, only the ruins of a brick Buddhist temple from the 10th century remain on this site. Interest in Chandraketugarh arose due to the many terracotta artifacts dating back to the Shunga period, that is 200–100 BC. Most of them were stolen and taken abroad, and only a few fragments survived in Indian museums. Although the complex was discovered in 1906, the Archaeological Survey of India, under British control, did not carry out excavations here. Many of the stolen items are now in museums around the world, such as the Metropolitan. 2 terracotta plates depict a mermaid, a rather rare image in Indian culture. In one, a mermaid swims by a lake, holding something that looks like a mirror or a flower. People on the shore look at her as if she was a miracle. The great chief arrived in a chariot to see this creature. On another, a mermaid was caught in a net by fishermen. People wave at her and she answers them without showing any fear. Looking at these reliefs, I wondered, are they not a reflection of ancient legends or real events that took place in Chandraketugarh 2,200 years ago? Perhaps mermaids were not a figment of the imagination, but real sea creatures in ancient times? Write in the comments under the video. Do you believe in the existence of mermaids or something similar? It's no wonder that the depths of the seas and oceans have not yet been explored. Tutankhamun's camping cot. A recently published report by Japanese researchers says that a unique camping cot from the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun represents a real technological breakthrough of its time. Discovered in 1922 by Howard Carter, this exclusive folding bed has a striking design. It can be folded into a Z shape. Architect Naoko Nishimoto, who specializes in the history of furniture, emphasizes the uniqueness of this find. Although other, simpler folding bed designs have been discovered, this 3-piece bed is something special. Nishimoto claims that the craftsman who created this item demonstrated a real engineering miracle. After all, even the legs of the bed, decorated in the shape of lion paws, were equipped with complex hinges which made it possible to roll them up. These pieces were most likely created through trial and error, indicating the deep intelligence and ingenuity of the artisans. Despite the technology of the bed, it is unlikely that the young pharaoh Tutankhamun used it in practice, since his health and lifestyle did not allow this. Scientists speculate that this bed was part of a funerary treasure, symbolizing eternal comfort in the afterlife. Lycurgus Cup. The Lycurgus cup is a unique artifact of antiquity, combining high art and complex technical implementation. This Roman glass goblet dates back to the 4th century AD and serves as a striking example of the ancient craftsmanship of glassmaking. The peculiarity of the cup lies in its ability to change color under different lighting conditions. In reflected light, the cup appears green, but when illuminated, it takes on a rich ruby red hue. This effect is achieved thanks to gold and silver nanoparticles in the glass. The image on the cup is based on Greek mythology and tells the story of Lycurgus, who tried to kill Ambrosia, the son of the god of wine Dionysus. The image shows how the vines generated by the vineyard entangle the body of Lycurgus, making it impossible for him to move. The Lycurgus cup is now kept in the British Museum. It serves not only as a magnificent example of ancient art, but also as evidence of the high level of knowledge of ancient artisans in the fields of chemistry and optics. Buddha Iron Man. This is an amazing find that has shocked scientists around the world. This statue, about 24 centimeters high and weighing 10 kilograms, was created from a fragment of a meteorite. The specimen represents the image of the Buddhist god Vaishravana, who symbolizes protection and wealth. The origin of the statue has been carefully studied by researchers. Based on the results of the analysis, it was determined that the material for the creation was taken from the Chinga meteorite, which fell on the border of Mongolia and Siberia about 15,000 years ago. It is believed that the statue was created in the 11th century AD on the territory of Tibet. It is amazing how the ancient masters, without even suspecting the cosmic origin of the material, were able to so skillfully process and transform it into a work of art. In 1938, Ernst Schaefer's expedition, funded by Nazi Germany, discovered the statue in Tibet and brought it back to Germany. Subsequently, its origin and material remained a subject of controversy and mystery for a long time, until recent scientific research revealed its amazing history. Today, Iron Man stands not only as a majestic work of art, but also as a testament to the unique combination of nature and human artistry. Bottle of ancient Roman wine. An ancient Roman wine bottle dating back to 325 AD is believed to be one of the oldest surviving wine bottles in the world. It was discovered in 1867 near the city of Speyer in Germany as part of a tomb excavation. The vessel is made of glass and has an elongated shape with a narrow neck. Inside the bottle, the wine is turned into a solid substance due to the passing of centuries, but thanks to the sealed plug made of olive wood and wax, the contents of the bottle remained intact. Although modern researchers and wine experts do not recommend trying this ancient drink, it represents a unique testimony to the art of winemaking in ancient Rome. Now the bottle is in the Historical Museum of the city of Speyer and is one of its main exhibits. Ancient Roman boxing gloves. Cestus is an ancient Roman boxing glove which was intended not so much to protect the boxer's hands, but to increase the injury rate of blows. These combat accessories, reinforced with metal or bone inserts, could inflict fatal wounds. The only known surviving specimen of cestus was discovered during archaeological excavations in the city of Pompeii, which was buried under a layer of ash and lava as a result of the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. This rare artifact is an amazing testament to ancient Roman sporting culture and the brutality of gladiatorial combat. The cestus is made of leather and decorated with lead and iron inserts. Unlike modern boxing gloves, the purpose of this device was to cause maximum damage to the opponent. Although modern boxing is considered a brutal sport, Roman fights using cestus were much more dangerous and bloody. Medieval female giant. In the Middle Ages, on the island of Ostrów Lednicki in Poland, there lived a woman of extraordinary height who probably suffered from mental disorders. This is the only known giantess from Poland at that time, as confirmed by Dr. Magdalena Madzak. Her height was about 215 centimeters, while ordinary women were around 1.6 meters tall. The woman passed away at the age of 30. Her skeleton was found by researchers in the Lednice area. According to assumptions, the presence of such a disease could be accompanied by mental problems. Interestingly, despite her height, the life of a giantess in medieval Poland could have been quite comfortable since she was well known in her community. But her burial was unusual. Contrary to accepted traditions, her face was directed to the west, and she did not have funerary objects. The Holy Grail of the Nazis. This artifact has become increasingly popular over time, especially in the context of research into the esoteric beliefs of the Nazi regime. It is true that a number of senior Nazi leaders, including Himmler, were interested in the occult and mystical traditions. However, it is necessary to understand that most of the information on this topic is based on myths and guesses. However, there is a version that the Nazis were actually looking for the Holy Grail in the hope of using its mythical properties for their own purposes. In combination with archaeological expeditions organized by the Ahnenerbe SS Research Institute, this version becomes even more interesting. Some historians claim that one of the goals of Nazi expeditions to Tibet and other regions was to search for relics, including the Grail. However, there is no clear evidence for this. There is also an opinion that the Grail could be located in southern France, in the Cathar region, and that the Nazis carried out excavations there. This myth has been further inflated by popular culture. especially movies and books. A number of works depict Nazis pursuing sacred relics, including the Grail, to gain supernatural power or justify their ideology. Scientific and historical research on the topic proves that while the Nazis were indeed interested in the occult and mysticism, most of these claims are based on myth. However, the idea that the Nazis may have been searching for the Holy Grail has become one of the most recognizable and disturbing themes in modern pop culture. Ring with the inscription, "For Allah." A ring with Arabic inscription dating back to the 9th century was discovered by researchers from Stockholm University in the city of Birka, an ancient Viking trading center in Sweden. This unique piece of purple stone jewelry speaks to the Vikings' ties to the Islamic world, supporting the theory of trade between these cultures. Initial speculation was that the stone in the ring was an amethyst, but further research revealed that it was violet glass, a material that was rare at the time. Scientists believed that such glass could have come from Egypt or Mesopotamia, supporting the idea of trade links. There are traces of silver on the inside of the ring, indicating that it was purchased new before it became Viking property. This artifact supports the hypothesis of cultural and trade exchanges between Scandinavia and the Arab world, making it one of the most important finds of its time. The oldest pirate flag. The National Museum of the Navy in Portsmouth displays a unique artifact, the Jolly Roger pirate flag, captured off the coast of Africa in 1780. This flag with a red background sent a specific message to merchant ships: surrender or die. There are traces of gunpowder and charred bullet holes on its fabric. Around 1700, such flags began to be actively used by pirates. Initially, red dominated, but over time, pirates experimented with other designs, including black flags. Richard Noyce, the museum's curator, says the image of pirates created by Hollywood is far from reality. In history, they were dangerous threats to trade and not romantic movie heroes. Each pirate ship captain could choose his own design for his flag, but the skull and crossbones motif became the most popular. The name Jolly Roger likely comes from the French phrase Joli Rouge, which translates to beautiful red, emphasizing the original red color of the flag. Luristan bronzes. The Luristan bronzes are a collection of bronze artifacts originating from the Luristan province in western Iran. These objects date back to the period between the 12th and 6th centuries BC and represent some of the most exquisite examples of ancient metallurgy and art. Most Luristan bronzes are small figurines, weapons, jewelry, and utensils. Their designs often use geometric motifs and animal images, especially goats and other horned creatures. Some of these items may have been used for religious or ritual purposes, while others may have been objects of everyday use. Luristan bronzes represent a reflection of the culture of the peoples who lived on the territory of modern Iran during the first millennium BC. Their uniqueness lies in their quality and style, which differs from other bronze objects of the time. The oldest tunic from Egypt. The 4,500-year-old tunic is now in the Cairo Museum and is one of the most valuable pieces of ancient Egyptian art. This amazing piece of clothing has been well preserved to this day, giving us a glimpse into the life and fashion of ancient Egypt. The tunic is made of linen, a popular material at the time that was cool and affordable. Its design is simple but elegant. Narrow sleeves and a straight cut emphasize the status and degree of sophistication of its owner. It is interesting to note that despite its age, the tunic design is still relevant today. It is believed that such tunics were worn by high-ranking persons or priests. Clothes of this kind emphasize the status of its owner in society. Members of the upper echelons of Egyptian society often decorated their clothing with embroidery or gold stitching to distinguish themselves from others. I hope that our journey through history was as exciting for you as it was for me. Eerie discovery under the floor. An ordinary day for Amelia turned into a real investigation. She noticed that one of the floorboards in her house was loose and decided to lift it to find out the reason. However, instead of a simple breakage, strange objects were found under the board. An old coin from 1904 and a small golden book. Opening the book, she discovered that the pages were unusually thick. Inside were old photographs, creepy images of the house, dark shadows in empty rooms, and mysterious portraits. Perhaps the house holds dark secrets of the past, or maybe the photographs have simply aged. However, Amelia herself was seriously scared by the discovery. She admitted that since then she has felt anxious and wants to know what other secrets her house is hiding. The oldest Masonic artifact. This brass square is one of the earliest Masonic artifacts in the world. It was found in 1830 under the foundations of Baal Bridge in Limerick, Ireland. It dates back to 1507, making it an important piece of early Freemasonry. On one side are engraved the words, "I will strive to live with love and care," and on the other, "according to the compass and the square." These phrases echo the key principles of Freemasonry: honesty, justice, and brotherhood. The square and compass are traditional symbols of Freemasons, associated with rightness of action and equality of people. How this object ended up under the bridge is a mystery. Perhaps it was laid as a symbolic stone of good luck during construction. In any case, this is a rare artifact that gives an idea of the origins of Masonic traditions back in the early 16th century. Pyramid of the oldest civilization. The Norte Chico culture, also known as Caral Soup, is considered one of the oldest and most advanced civilizations of the Andes. It existed about 5,000 years ago and achieved significant advances in architecture, agriculture, and social organization. Archaeologists recently discovered a pyramidal structure about a kilometer from the sacred city of Caral Soup in the Soup Valley, Peru. The structure is a quadrangular building with a wide staircase leading to the top. Its walls are decorated with massive vertical stones, huancas, which may have had not only structural but also ritual significance. In addition to the pyramid, the researchers found 12 public and ceremonial buildings located around a central plaza of almost 39 hectares. This indicates the existence of a small urban center with administrative and religious functions. 3 platforms were identified in the pyramid, which indicates a complex architectural tradition of the Caral civilization. At the Chupatsigaro site, archaeologists also discovered a unique geoglyph, made in the Sechina style. It depicts a human profile and is likely associated with rituals reflecting access to the region's marine and agricultural resources. The world's oldest runestone. Archaeologists in Norway have made a sensational discovery, possibly the oldest known runestone. Sandstone fragments with runes carved into them were found in separate graves at the ancient cemetery of Svingerud. Researchers have discovered that the pieces fit together like a puzzle, forming a single stone with a unique engraving. Runes are ancient letters used to write Germanic languages before the transition to the Latin alphabet. The origin of runic writing remains a subject of debate, but early alphabets were used before 700 AD. Dating the stone using radiocarbon analysis showed that it is between 50 BC and 275 AD, making it the oldest known runic monument. What is special about the find is that the inscriptions on the stone are an unusual mixture of runes and unknown symbols. The carvings may have been made by different people at different times, and the stone itself may have been reused. Researchers believe that it originally served as a memorial marker for one grave, but was later broken and redistributed among other burials. Zombie spiders. While exploring caves in Northern Ireland, scientists have discovered a new type of fungus that can hijack spiders and control their behavior. The fungus works in a similar way to the zombie fungi found in tropical forests, forcing infected insects to spread its spores. The study was conducted by a team led by Dr. Harry Evans, with the participation of specialists from the Natural History Museum of Denmark and the Royal Botanic Gardens Kew. The new species was named Gibellula attenboroughi in honor of Sir David Attenborough. Analysis showed that it parasitizes orb weaver spiders, forcing them to change their usual behavior. The researchers noticed that infected spiders left the walls of the caves and moved to the ceiling, which is unusual for these species. It is assumed that the fungus controls the nervous system of the victim, directing it to places favorable for the spread of spores. Seated burials and a children's necropolis. In the French city of Dijon, archaeologists have discovered a unique burial site of Gauls that is over 2,000 years old. The unusual thing about the find is that all the deceased are sitting facing west, a rare ritual known only from a few places in France and Switzerland. The excavations were carried out in the garden of an old monastery where archaeologists came across 13 burials. The deceased are sitting with their hands on their torsos and their legs folded asymmetrically. The burials date back to the period 450, 25 BC. Researchers suggest that these graves could have contained priests, chieftains, or members of the same family. Next to these burials, a children's necropolis from the 1st century AD was found, where 22 infants were buried, many of whom did not live even a year. Some children were buried in wooden coffins, as evidenced by the nails found. Coins and ceramics were also found in the graves, probably burial gifts. However, part of the cemetery was destroyed due to agricultural work. The reason for the sitting burial remains a mystery. One version is related to the belief in the afterlife. Perhaps the deceased were supposed to meet the other world in a special pose. Other researchers believe that this is part of a spiritual practice. The pose could symbolize meditation or eternal peace. This is confirmed by Celtic figurines found in different parts of Europe. Shaman burial. On the banks of the Tigris River in Turkey, archaeologists have discovered a 12,000-year-old burial site that may belong to a female shaman. Her remains were found in the Neolithic settlement of Çimkahuyuk. Skeletons of wild animals were found next to her: partridge wings, marten paws, goat or sheep bones, and an aurochs skull. Researchers suggest that the woman could have been an intermediary between the world of people and spirits. Shamans played an important role in ancient societies, conducting rituals associated with nature and supernatural forces. The burial was carefully sealed with a limestone slab, which may indicate fear of the possible return of the deceased. There is a version that she was considered special or even dangerous to society. Archaeologists will conduct DNA and isotope analysis of the bones to find out who she was, what she ate, and what role she played in her tribe. Tunnels that were considered a myth. For the residents of Cusco, this discovery was a real confirmation of ancient legends about underground passages and hidden treasures. Archaeologists Jorge Calero Flores and Mildred Fernandez Palomino reported the discovery of a network of tunnels under the city connecting the Temple of the Sun and the fortress of Sacsayhuaman. According to preliminary data, the tunnels date back to the late 15th, early 16th centuries. The engineering solutions used in their construction are amazing. Stone walls, similar to the famous Inca structures, are resistant to earthquakes, and a complex drainage system prevented flooding. The length of the labyrinth is about 1,750 meters. The depth reaches 2.5 meters. The tunnels have 3 branches. One leads to Calispucio, the second passes under the church of San Cristobal, and the third connects to Sacsayhuaman. The purpose of these passages remains a mystery. Some researchers suggest that the tunnels were used by priests or military commanders for secret travel. Others believe that they had ritual significance. Small niches were found in the walls, probably intended for sacrifices. Although no gold or artifacts have been found yet, the tunnels themselves are a valuable historical discovery. Modern technologies, such as ground-penetrating radar, help to study them without destruction. Local residents actively support the research, considering the find an important part of their heritage. People of an unknown civilization. In the tropical forests of Brazil, in the state of Rondônia, archaeologists have recorded rare footage of people from the isolated Masaco tribe. This tribe, discovered in the 1990s, categorically avoids contact with the outside world and carefully guards its lands, setting up deadly traps made of wooden spikes. These spikes are so strong that they can puncture tractor tires. The Masaco are one of 28 tribes in the Amazon that are completely cut off from civilization. Scientists have installed cameras in the jungle to study them without invading them. Researcher Algair has been monitoring the tribe since 1992, and thanks to his work, it has been possible to stop deforestation in their territory. Early attempts to contact isolated peoples often ended tragically due to outbreaks of disease. Therefore, the Masaco rejected any offerings, tools, utensils, weapons. They left only sharp thorns at the meeting places, warning strangers that the invasion was undesirable. After the end of contacts and the protection of their lands, the tribe's population increased. In the 90s, about 90 people lived here. Now, 250. Scientists have made maps of their paths and camps, recorded their nomadic farming techniques on satellites. The tribe burns down the savanna and then moves there during the rainy season. The Masaco differ from other tribes in their long bows, up to 3 meters. Anthropologists still do not understand how they shoot from them. Their language is unique and not understood even by other indigenous peoples. Researchers note the number of Masaco is growing, which means that sooner or later they will encounter civilization. But history shows that such contacts rarely end well. Barelek Cemetery. Yakutia, Barelek River. You won't find any shells or beautiful stones here, but you can stumble upon ancient tusks and skulls sticking out of the ground. This is one of the largest mammoth cemeteries on the planet. Thousands of bones, some thousands of years old, hold the mysteries of the past. Why did so many animals die in one place? The cemetery was first discovered in 1947, but the first serious studies began only in the 1970s. Scientists then suggested that mammoths came to the river in search of food, but the swampy banks could not support their weight and the animals drowned. Lighter animals could pass further without problems. Over 39 years, paleontologists have extracted more than 8.5 thousand bones from the ground, 99.5% of which belong to mammoths. At least 150 individuals have been found, but time, smugglers, and even ancient people have left their mark. A site was discovered nearby where our ancestors split mammoth bones to create tools and weapons. The latest research has shown that hunters did not come here by chance. They purposefully drove mammoths into this area. For 1,000 years, people regularly returned to this place, getting meat and tusks. This cemetery is not just a natural phenomenon, but traces of an ancient hunting strategy. Imagine, in 1,000 years, humanity has gone from nomadic hunting to space exploration. And in the past, people could return to the same place for centuries for the sake of survival. We will probably never achieve such stability again. Lacquer coffin. In 2018, archaeologists discovered a unique 700-year-old lacquer coffin from the Yuan dynasty in China's Jiangsu province. Its bright red surface was perfectly preserved thanks to a multi-layered lacquer coating that protected the wood from moisture and decay. Lacquer coffins were a symbol of high status in China, and their creation required complex technologies. The lacquer was applied in several layers and then polished to a shine. This method of preservation allowed the coffin to survive centuries with virtually no damage. The find is also important because the Yuan dynasty left relatively few burials, and this coffin can tell us a lot about the funeral traditions of that time. Creepy artifact in the garden. A routine walk with a metal detector turned into a creepy find. A California resident accidentally discovered a mysterious chest buried in a friend's garden. At first, he expected to find only small items like coins or bottle caps, but instead he came across a heavy metal box covered in strange symbols. When the men opened the chest, they expected to see something valuable, but inside there was only dirt and a few plastic flowers. The main concern was the SS emblem, the symbol of Nazi Germany. Among the versions, the chest could have been used by soldiers of World War II to transport trophies. Despite many theories, the origin of the chest remains a mystery. Who buried it and why? Why is there only trash inside? Perhaps soon historians will be able to solve the mystery of this find. Excavations in a powder keg. Archaeologists have discovered Paleolithic sites and artifacts dating back about 1.5 million years in the desert of western Iraq. The finds include hand axes and stone tools, shedding light on the early history of the region and ancient human activity. The research was carried out in the Al-Shabaka region, where geoarchaeologist Ella Egberts and her team studied ancient soil layers and traces of human activity. They identified 7 sites in an area of 10x 20 kilometers, as well as more than 850 artifacts, including stone axes from the early Paleolithic. There was once a large lake here, leaving behind dry riverbeds. Ancient people probably used the region for hunting and making tools. Scientists believe that further research will help to better understand how the landscape changed and which groups of people inhabited it in ancient times. The project involved Iraqi students studying geoarchaeology and Paleolithic studies. Despite the unstable political situation, the work proceeded without incident. In the future, Egberts plans to expand the research to reconstruct climate change and early human activity in the region. Sistine Chapel of Ancient Egypt. Here is one of the most stunning tombs of ancient Egypt, the tomb of Queen Nefertari, wife of Ramses II. It is over 3,200 years old and is often called the Sistine Chapel of Egypt because of its incredible paintings. Unlike many other tombs, this one amazes not only with its scale, but also with its bright, almost untouched colors. On the walls are scenes from the Book of the Dead, images of gods and Nefertari herself going to the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that such paintings would help the deceased pass the trials and achieve eternal life. The detail is amazing. Fine lines, intricate patterns, vivid colors, all this makes the tomb a real masterpiece. Unfortunately, many sections of the walls have been damaged by time, but restorers have managed to preserve its grandeur. Today, this tomb is considered one of the most beautiful in the Valley of the Queens and a true window into the world of ancient Egyptian art. Dog sacrifices. Archaeologists have discovered evidence of dog sacrifices near Wolsong Palace, which was the royal residence of Silla in present-day Gyeongju, South Korea. Silla was one of the three kingdoms of Korea, which existed from 57 BC to 935 AD. The city of Sorobol, present-day Gyeongju, was the capital where a crescent-shaped fortress palace complex was built. Human and animal remains, likely used in rituals, have previously been found at the main entrance of the palace. A recent expedition uncovered a circular structure on the outskirts of an ancient settlement southwest of the palace. Inside, archaeologists found the bones of 2 dogs, arranged symmetrically, as well as a knife, a wooden comb, shark teeth, and a crystal necklace, all placed in a wooden box. An analysis of the artifacts suggests that the find dates back to the 3rd century BC. Traces of fire around the area indicate that the site may have been burned after the ritual. At the time, the region was part of the Jin-Han Alliance, the predecessor of the Silla Kingdom. Frozen Scythian boot. This boot is a real artifact of the past which is more than 2,300 years old. It was found in one of the burial mounds of the Altai Mountains where it was perfectly preserved due to the permafrost. This is a Scythian shoe made of leather and decorated with intricate patterns, and the sole is strewn with bright beads. Such decor speaks of the high status of the owner. Most likely it was part of the outfit of a noble Scythian man or even a noble Scythian woman. The Scythians were famous not only for their military skill, but also for their ability to make things that could pass for works of art. Their clothes were not only practical, but also incredibly beautiful. Interestingly, the sole of the boot is also decorated. Perhaps it was a ritual element or just a desire to look stylish even after death. Mysterious house in ancient tapestry. The Bayeux Tapestry is one of the most famous medieval works of art, illustrating the Norman conquest of England in 1066. However, it remains a historical mystery. New research has helped to uncover another secret associated with this unique monument. The tapestry, 68.3 meters long, depicts key events before the Battle of Hastings, including the assassination of the last Anglo-Saxon king, Harold II, by Duke William's army. Archaeologists have confirmed that one of the places shown in the tapestry actually existed, Harold's residence in Bosham, England. Using modern technology, researchers examined the structures beneath the 17th century building believed to have been built on the site of a palace. Radar scanning and analysis of old excavations revealed the remains of 2 medieval buildings and an important find, a toilet, indicating the status of an elite residence. Harold owned several estates, but Bosham was probably his favorite. The palace had moats, granaries, kitchens, and even servants' quarters. This discovery helps to reconstruct the life of the Anglo-Saxon nobility and confirms that the Bayeux Tapestry is not just a work of art, but a valuable historical source. Why is a bottle of wine 750 milliliters? Why is the volume of a wine bottle 750 milliliters and not 1 liter? There are many theories surrounding this question. Some believe that this volume is convenient for a European family to have dinner with, while others associate it with the optimal storage of wine. Some argue that this is a historically established standard for glassblowers, while others are sure that 750 milliliters is simply a convenient volume for transportation. However, the real reason lies in the trade calculations of the 19th century. At that time, wine was actively exported from France to England, where the gallon system was used. 1 gallon was approximately 4.5 liters, and a standard French wine barrel held 225 liters. When divided into 750 milliliters bottles, there were exactly 300 pieces. To simplify trade, it was decided to count batches in this volume. 1 gallon was 6 bottles and a case was 12. This standard has survived to this day. In addition to wine, alcohol played an important role in earlier eras. For example, the Sumerians used weak beer, about 2.5% ABV, to disinfect water. And the first traces of wine were found in Georgia and Armenia, making them the birthplaces of winemaking. Interestingly, in the 1970s, the United States planned to switch to liter bottles, but research showed that 750 milliliters is the ideal volume for wine maturation. As a result, this standard became global. retaining its significance even in countries with a metric system. Mummy of a Yakut lion. In November 2024, Russian paleontologists completed the study of a unique find, the mummy of a Homotherium kitten that had lain in the Yakut permafrost for about 35,000 years. This is one of the rarest specimens of ancient predators that dominated vast territories for millions of years, from North America to Africa. Homotheriums were powerful predators, competing with lions, saber-toothed tigers, and even hyenas. They hunted in packs, and their fangs, although shorter than those of smilodons, were thicker and stronger, allowing them to pierce the skin of large animals, such as young mammoths. Unlike solitary ambush smilodons, Homotheriums preferred driven hunts, like wolves. Their powerful paws and developed chests made them hardy pursuers. The find from Yakutia allowed scientists to study the kitten's appearance in detail. At 3 weeks old, it already had a massive neck, a wide muzzle, and paws resembling skis ideal for moving through the snow. A comparison with a modern lion cub showed that Homotherium was stockier and more muscular. Despite its adaptations, Homotherium became extinct about 10,000 years ago. Their specialized hunting strategy proved ineffective in the face of melting glaciers and competition with primitive humans. Mysterious drink in a jug. The oldest distilled alcohol in China, dating back more than 3,000 years, has been found. This rare liquid, found in a bronze vessel from the Shang dynasty, proves that distillation technology appeared in China much earlier than previously thought. The owl-shaped vessel was found in 2010 in Tomb M 257 in Daxinzhuang, Shandong province. Due to corrosion, it was impossible to open immediately. It was not until 2024, after careful restoration, that researchers were able to look inside. To their surprise, the vessel contained a clear liquid, which was preserved thanks to the tight seal. Analysis in a lab at Shandong University confirmed that it was distilled liquor. It did not contain the sugars and organic acids characteristic of fermented wine, but had a neutral pH of 5.8. This distinguishes it from previously known alcoholic beverages from the Neolithic and Zhou dynasties. The African continent is splitting apart. Scientists have found that Africa will split into 2 continents much faster than previously thought. In 2005, a 56.5 kilometers long crack appeared in the Ethiopian desert, which continues to widen at a rate of 1.5 centimeters per year. This is part of a large-scale process associated with the East African Rift Valley, a giant 3,200 kilometers long fault that appeared 22 million years ago. It was previously believed that Africa would split in tens of millions of years, but University of California professor Ken McDonald predicts that this will happen in just 5 million years. As a result, the Indian Ocean will flood East Africa, forming a new continent that will include Somalia, Kenya, Tanzania, and half of Ethiopia. The Great Lakes of Africa, which contain 25% of the Earth's fresh water, were formed precisely because of the tectonic fault. According to former NASA consultant Alexandra Doughton, these processes are ongoing, and over time, East Africa will completely separate, forming a new ocean. Modern satellite data and seismic scanning confirm that volcanic activity in the region is increasing. In 2018, heavy rains led to the formation of new faults in Kenya, and locals felt tremors. Experts also believe that Madagascar will eventually split into 2 islands. Although these changes are imperceptible on a human timescale, earthquakes and volcanic eruptions will become more frequent, marking the birth of a new continent. Mysterious Tomb 157. During excavations in the eastern part of Croatia, in the settlement of Raseza, archaeologists discovered a mysterious medieval burial site called Tomb 157. It attracted attention due to its unusual location and strange ritual features. The tomb was located under the floor of an ancient church along the southern wall, and on the remains of the deceased lay massive stones, which, according to researchers, could have been placed there specifically to prevent his possible resurrection. This fact, as well as the special position of the body, led to the assumption that the burial is associated with the belief in vampires. Anthropological analysis showed that the remains belonged to a man aged 50 who performed heavy physical labor during his life. However, the most mysterious thing is the deliberate damage to the skeleton. His torso was directed downwards and the head was separated from the body. Such unusual burial practices were previously encountered in Europe and were often associated with the fear of the dead who could return to life. The historical context also adds special significance to the find. The settlement of Roches existed from the 13th to the 16th century and belonged first to the Templars, then to the Hospitallers, and later passed into the hands of local nobility. Archaeologists have discovered 181 burials here over 15 years. Some graves contain traces of non-standard burial rituals, including decapitated bodies and dislocated bones, which testifies to ancient superstitions and fears. An analysis of historical sources confirms that even after the adoption of Christianity, belief in evil spirits continued to persist in Slavic countries. Ancient cemetery of trade caravans. Archaeologists have made an important discovery in the Negev highlands, a 2,500-year-old ancient burial site that sheds light on trade routes of the ancient world. The artifacts found confirm that the region was an important hub linking southern Arabia, Phoenicia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean. The excavations revealed the tombs of traders who crossed the desert, including merchants who carried frankincense, myrrh, and valuable goods. Among the finds were arrowheads from Yemen, jewelry, rare shells, and tools for processing frankincense. Of particular interest is the amulet of the Egyptian god Be. Its presence may indicate human trafficking in ancient times, as is confirmed by historical records of the Minutes merchants from Yemen who acquired women in Egypt, Gaza, and Greece. The burial site is located at a strategic crossroads of ancient routes leading through the desert. New secrets of Egyptian funeral practices. For the first time, scientists have conducted a detailed analysis of the pink and white paste used to seal coffins in ancient Egypt. The study has shown that these substances had different compositions and performed different functions. One of the first samples studied was the coffin of Pakapu, a priest and keeper of burials in Thebes who lived about 2,700 years ago. His wooden coffin, stored in the Fitzwilliam Museum at Cambridge University, consisted of two parts, an inner and an intermediate coffin sealed with special compounds. Analysis showed that the pink paste was used to fill structural gaps and the white served as a base for painting. Interestingly, a layer resembling papier mâché was found in the inner coffin, a multi-layered composition of linen and plaster, similar to those used for burial masks and mummy shells. The main component of both pastes was calcite, obtained by grinding limestone. However, the inner coffin used a purer material which confirms the special attention paid to the structure that was in direct contact with the body. The pink paste, containing iron impurities, was coarser and served technical purposes. Its granular structure helped prevent shrinkage when drying. The diversity of compositions indicates that different craftsmen worked on the coffin, each using their own method. Glowing in the sun. During the exploration of an ancient burial complex in southwestern Spain, archaeologists have discovered the remains of women buried in ritual clothing decorated with thousands of beads. This unusual attire, according to scientists, was evidence of the high status of the owners and was used in special ceremonies. The burial, which is about 5,000 years old, is located in Valencina de la Concepción, an archaeological site near Seville. Excavations have revealed the largest collection of beads ever found in a single burial. In total, researchers studied more than 270,000 beads made from seashells, stone, and bone. One burial in particular stands out, the Ivory Lady. Her jewelry was likely associated with marine resources and trade routes of the Copper Age. According to the researchers, the mother-of-pearl beads shone in the sun, enhancing the visual effect of the outfit. Scientists believe that the beads were part of tunics, skirts, or capes strung on fabric, traces of which have been preserved. Researchers note that to make such a quantity of beads, a team of 10 people would have been needed, working for at least 7 months. The scale of the work is impressive and indicates the complex craft traditions of the time. The oldest 3D map in the world. Archaeologists have discovered the oldest 3D map in the world, which is 13,000 years old. It was carved into quartz sandstone in the Ségonolé 3 cave shelter in France, and according to the researchers, is a schematic representation of the landscape of the Paris Basin. According to the analysis, the map shows the relief of the terrain with the designation of the directions of water flows, which was critical for the people of the late Paleolithic. According to anthropologist Anthony Milnes, for ancient people, knowledge of water flows was more important than modern concepts of distance and time. An important discovery was that Paleolithic people did not just record the landscape, but also deliberately changed it, creating artificial channels in the sandstone to manage the flow of rainwater. The creators of the map deliberately opened cracks in the stone to direct water through the settlement. This proves that already 13,000 years ago, people had an engineering mindset and a deep knowledge of hydrology. Archaeologists also suggest that the carved channels could have had mythological or ritual significance associated with water and ideas about nature and life. Ghosts in Jamaica. Sometimes a little truth and a generous helping of myths are enough to make a place truly legendary. This is how the story of Rose Hall Mansion, one of Jamaica's most famous landmarks, unfolded. This magnificent house, located on a hilltop overlooking the sea, hides dark secrets of the past. The mansion was built by plantation owner John Palmer, who named it after his wife Rose. During the plantation era, Jamaica was a place of brutal slave exploitation, and the fate of many of them was connected to this house. But the real legend began when John Rose Palmer became the owner of Rose Hall together with his young wife Annie. According to legend, she grew up in Haiti, where she was raised by a voodoo priestess. It is believed that Annie used black magic to subjugate slaves and get rid of husbands. They say she poisoned 3 spouses and executed unwanted slaves by locking them in the dungeons of the mansion. According to legend, she was killed by her own slaves and her body was walled up under the house. Since then, the ghost of the White Witch supposedly roams the mansion. Today, Rose Hall is an 18th century museum where spiritualistic sessions and tours are held. The atmospheric place attracts both lovers of mysticism and connoisseurs of history. Human sacrifice. The ancient Mayans believed that blood had a special power. It was food for the gods, supporting them and ensuring the well-being of the earth. The Mayans performed sacrificial rituals in a variety of contexts, ranging from important royal ceremonies to fortune-telling. The victims were often prisoners of war, children, or members of the royal family. They were tortured. Either their heart was cut out right at the top of the pyramid, or they were drowned in sacred wells. These actions had deep religious and cosmological meaning, emphasizing the connection between earth, man, and the gods. However, for modern people, such rituals remain one of the most mysterious and terrifying aspects of Mayan culture. The Wicker Man. In the ancient Celtic cultures scattered throughout Europe, religious rites and rituals played a central role. One of the most mysterious and disturbing of these was the sacrifice in the Wicker Man. This large-scale structure, built from woven branches and foliage in the shape of a man, became a place for the ritual burning of animals and perhaps even people. Descriptions of such rituals have come to us thanks to Roman historians, especially Julius Caesar. In his notes on the Gallic War, he argued that the Druids, the religious leaders of the Celts, performed these rituals for prosperity and harvest. Captives, animals, and even volunteers were imprisoned inside the statue. After that, it was set on fire. The flame engulfing the wicker structure symbolized purification and renewal. Despite the evidence of Roman authors, archaeological finds confirming the existence of such rituals are extremely limited. This makes the Wicker Man a subject of debate and controversy among scholars. Healing rituals. In the north of Spain, among the Green Hills, hides one of the most significant Paleolithic caves, Altamira. This cave is known for its breathtaking paintings, but other amazing evidence of ancient life has been discovered among the archaeological finds here. Among the numerous bones, tools, and jewelry, the researchers found several skulls with clear holes. These holes were the result of trephination, an ancient surgical procedure in which a hole was made in the skull. Why did ancient people decide to undertake such a risky operation? According to one version, trepanation was used to treat certain diseases, such as hydrocephalus or hemorrhage. However, other scholars believe that it could have been a ritual act, an attempt to exorcise evil spirits, or even a way of communicating with deities. Perhaps the ancient inhabitants of Altamira believed that through this surgical opening in the skull, the soul could communicate with the cosmos. Or it was a way to free the dying person from suffering. Be that as it may, this procedure is evidence of the high degree of medical knowledge and deep religious beliefs of the ancient people. A creepy burial ritual. Sati is an ancient Indian ritual in which a widow, voluntarily or under social and family pressure, threw herself into the funeral pyre of her deceased husband. This custom was widespread in various regions of India and became a symbol of fidelity, devotion, and endless love of a wife for her husband. Sati did not have universal application across all Indian societies and cultures. This ritual was mainly practiced among the upper castes and was especially common in the regions of Rajasthan, Bengal, and other northern territories. Researchers believe that the main reason for the existence of such a rite was the belief that in this way the widow showed the highest act of devotion and honor by being reunited with her husband in afterlife. However, another theory states that sati became popular to prevent widows from being captured as slaves after invasion and conquest by foreign powers. Unfortunately, not all cases of sati were truly voluntary. Many widows were subject to enormous pressure from their family or society, often due to social status or economic considerations. In some cases, women who did not want to die were forcibly thrown into the fire or even tied up before doing so. Reformers and activists of the 19th century, realizing the cruelty and inhumanity of this custom, began to actively fight the practice of sati. Thanks to their efforts and the intervention of the British colonial administration, a law was passed in 1829 that prohibited sati in India. However, even after the ritual was banned, isolated cases of sati continued to occur in remote areas of the country, and only an active educational campaign and socio-cultural changes gradually led to the disappearance of this practice. Rituals in the Pyramid. The Pyramid of Cheops, one of the 7 wonders of the world, is fraught with many secrets. Behind the stone walls of this grandiose structure are hidden the mysterious rituals that were carried out in the depths of the pyramid. In the ancient passages and chambers of the Cheops pyramid, where the mummy of the great pharaoh lived, priests performed religious rituals designed to strengthen the magical protection of the deceased. Under the glow of thousands of torches, they cast ancient spells, turning to the gods and spirits of their ancestors. These spells not only protected the pharaoh's soul from evil spirits and curses, but also helped it travel to the afterlife, the world of the gods and eternity. Even thousands of years after the death of Cheops, these rituals remain the subject of study and admiration. They remind us of the ancient Egyptians' belief in eternity, their desire to maintain a connection with the dead and perpetuate their memory in the majestic pyramids. The leader's last journey. The Scythians are one of the most fascinating and mysterious peoples of antiquity. Their culture and religion were saturated with a number of unique rituals. One of the most striking and at the same time creepy was the burial ceremony of leaders. According to ancient sources, in particular the stories of Herodotus, when a high-ranking Scythian or leader died, his body was subjected to special procedures. First, the body was embalmed and then placed in a burial pit. But that was not all. The leader did not set off on his final journey alone. His servants, lovers, and sometimes even friends went to the grave with him. According to the beliefs of the Scythians, this was done so that the deceased would not feel lonely in the afterlife. To perform such a ritual, servants and mistresses were chosen, who were believed to be especially devoted to the leader. They were first put to sleep with a drink, and then their lives were sacrificed so that their souls could accompany their master to another world. In addition, the Scythians believed in a close connection between a man and his horse. Therefore, the horses that belonged to the deceased were also killed and buried nearby. Such a ritual was not only a manifestation of respect for the deceased, but also a demonstration of the power and wealth of the deceased leader. Among the Scythian mounds found, many contained the remains of not only people, but also animals, which indicates the widespread use of this ritual. Opening of the mouth. The Egyptians believed that after death a person passes into another dimension where his soul, or Ka, continues to live. However, in order for the soul to fully exist in the afterlife, the body of the deceased had to be prepared in a special way. After a complex embalming process that preserved the body from decomposition, the opening of the mouth ritual was performed. The priest, equipped with special instruments, symbolically opened the lips and eyes of the deceased. This action had a deep symbolic meaning. By opening the mouth, the priest returned to the deceased the ability to breathe, speak, and eat. The opening of the eyes allowed the soul to see the beauty and dangers of the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that without this ritual, the soul of the deceased would not be able to fully enjoy the benefits of the other world and might even face dangers, unable to protect itself or even eat. It was believed that the opening of the mouth would give the deceased a new life, making him a full-fledged inhabitant of the world of the dead. This rite was so important that images of it can often be found on the walls of tombs and on papyri, which depict various stages of funerary rituals. The priest performing the ritual was usually depicted with a stone knife or other instrument touching the mouth and eyes of the mummy. Secret meetings of Great Perm. Among the snow-capped peaks of the Ural Mountains lies an ancient and terrifying secret that still inspires fear in the locals. Perm the Great, shrouded in secrets and legends, keeps the story of creepy night rituals in the mountains. They say that every new moon, when the darkness becomes thickest and impenetrable, shamans and adherents of ancient cults gather in a sacred clearing in the center of the mountains. They bring animals with them for sacrifice and build huge fires. This ritual is over 700 years old. The ritual begins with the shrill cry of the shaman, who summons the spirits of ancestors and powerful forces of nature. Then, while dancing around the fire, the participants of the ritual call upon the spirits and pronounce ancient spells. It is believed that on this night, the line between the world of the living and the world of spirits is destroyed, and those who are in the clearing can see the ghosts and spirits of their ancestors. The darkest moment of the ritual is the sacrifice. Shamans believe that the blood and souls of sacrificed animals strengthen their connection to the spirit world and allow them to receive prophecies or even special abilities. Although many consider these stories to be mere legends, there is evidence that the rituals continue into the present day. Some residents of the Urals talk about strange lights that can be seen on mountain peaks on the night of the new moon, and about piercing screams coming from the depths of the mountains. Many avoid these places, especially on new moon nights, for fear of encountering participants in the mysterious ritual. The most terrible sect of antiquity. Aghori is one of the most extreme and mystical sects in Hinduism, whose practices and rituals often cause shock and misunderstanding among others. Situated primarily in the city of Varanasi on the sacred Ganges River, these hermits worship Shiva in his Bhairava aspect, the Lord of the Dead. The main tenet of the Aghori faith is the idea that there is nothing bad or unclean in the universe. For this reason, they choose cemeteries for meditation, believing that being close to the dead helps them overcome their fears and get closer to the divine. One of the most shocking aspects of their practice is cannibalism. Aghori believe that eating the flesh of the dead gives them supernatural powers, allowing them to free themselves from the reincarnation cycle and become a demigod. However, it is worth noting that they do not kill people for food. Instead, they feed on the bodies of those who have died naturally. These hermits also practice rituals that involve the use of psychoactive substances, such as alcohol and cannabis, to achieve deep states of meditation and connection with the divine. Witch trials. Medieval Europe was an era filled with religious passions, superstitions, and fears of the unknown. One of the darkest chapters in the continent's history is the witch hunt, a period in which thousands of women accused of witchcraft were subjected to brutal torture and often fatal trials. Beliefs that witches could form alliances with the devil, harm people, or cause natural disasters were deeply rooted in the popular consciousness. Under the influence of the church and its teachings about heresy and the devil's tricks, there was real hysteria regarding witches. Witch trials could begin with simple rumors or accusations from neighbors. A woman could be accused of using magic spells to spoil crops or cause illness in animals. After the accusation, torture followed. They were used to force the witch to admit her guilt. Among the most famous methods of torture were water tests. The suspect was tied up and lowered into water. If she drowned, it was considered proof of her innocence. However, it cost her her life. If she remained on the surface, she was considered to be a witch. Other tortures included skin burning, stretching on the rack, and many other cruel methods. Many of these women were burned at the stake. Witch hunts reached their peak in the 16th and 17th centuries, and although most victims were women, male witches were also hunted down and executed. Lupercalia ritual. Ancient Rome was known not only for its conquests and architectural wonders, but also for its unique ritual holidays. One of these holidays, Lupercalia, was held in honor of the god of fertility Faunus. Every year in February, the heart of Rome was filled with special excitement. Young people, Luperci, walked through the streets of the capital to the sound of drums and pipes. They were dressed only in short leather belts, and in their hands they held whips made of goat skin. These whips were believed to have special properties. Young people ran through the streets, lightly hitting passers-by, especially women, with their whips. This custom was not cruelty or punishment. On the contrary, it was considered a blessing and a symbol of fertility. Women who were whipped believed that this would increase their chances of conceiving and having a successful birth of a child in the near future. The ceremony itself took place near the Lupercal cave on the Palatine Hill, where, according to legend, the she-wolf fed the founders of Rome, Romulus and Remus. Young Luperci sacrificed goats, after which they smeared the blood of the victim on the faces of the participants in the ritual, and then, having washed it off with a cloth blessed with milk, they began to run through the streets of Rome. Sacrifices to Moloch. Moloch is a god whose name is at the center of many ancient legends and myths. Although he is most often associated with the ancient cults of Phoenicia and Carthage, rumors and stories of rituals in honor of Moloch reached ancient Greece. According to ancient sources, the statue of Moloch was made in the form of a man with the head of a bull. The statue had red-hot copper hands into which parents placed their firstborn children as a sacrifice. A fire burned under the hands of the statue, and when the children fell on these hot hands, they rolled directly into the flames. For the ancient Greeks, especially those who wrote down these stories, such rituals were a matter of horror and disgust. However, it is worth considering that many of these records could be distorted or even fictitious, since the Greeks and Carthaginians were rivals and fought among themselves in the Punic Wars. Myths about sacrifices to Moloch were likely strengthened and reinterpreted over time. While some historians believe that such rituals actually took place in ancient cultures, others believe that these stories were part of propaganda intended to smear the enemy. The first cannibals in history. The Caribs, an Indian tribe that lived in the Antilles, were, according to legend, terrible cannibals. The word cannibal came from the name of this tribe and became a general term describing cannibalism. The Europeans who arrived on these islands carried across the ocean horror stories of the bloodthirsty rituals of the Caribs. According to legends, the Caribs attacked neighboring tribes, capturing captives, whom they then killed and consumed as food during their religious ceremonies. It was believed that eating human flesh not only gave the strength of the slain warrior, but also served as a way to strengthen social bonds within the tribe. However, it is likely that stories of Caribbean cannibalism were exaggerated or even invented by Europeans. Some historians believe that these stories could serve as justification for the cruelty and aggression of the colonists against the local population. But even if we put aside European propaganda, we are left with oral traditions from other indigenous tribes in the region that also speak of the bloodthirsty customs of the Caribs. These stories, combined with archaeological finds, provide us with a complex picture of the practices and beliefs of this mysterious tribe. Initiation rites. In the depths of the Lascaux Caves, one of the most famous Paleolithic archaeological sites in the world, lies one of the most mysterious secrets of the ancient Cro-Magnons. The walls of this cave are decorated with magnificent drawings by ancient artists depicting animals, hunting scenes, and other symbols. But among all these works of art, we are attracted to strange handprints. It is believed that these prints are traces of ancient initiation rites. Young members of the tribe may have touched the cave wall, leaving their mark as a sign of transition to a new stage of life. This action could symbolize their connection with their ancestors, the spirits of the cave, and the world around them. The ritual could include various tests, a long stay in the darkness of a cave, meditation, or even some form of asceticism. By leaving their mark, the young men confirm their belonging to the tribe, their readiness to become full members of the community. Handprints are not just random marks on walls, these are evidence of deep spiritual practices and rituals that were part of the lives of ancient people. Funeral games. Ancient Rome, famous for its fighting arenas and gladiatorial games, also developed a unique ritual to honor the dead. Funeral games. This ritual served as a tribute to the deceased, as well as a way to demonstrate their status, wealth, and influence even after death. It was believed that the more gladiators who died in the arena in honor of the deceased, the more honor his soul was surrounded in the afterlife. Fights were often financed by the family or friends of the deceased to highlight his importance in society. The higher the status of the deceased, the bloodier and larger scale the funeral games were. This custom arose in the early period of Roman history and, according to some sources, originated from the Etruscans. However, over time it turned into a national spectacle, and funeral games began to be held even in honor of emperors. These events sometimes featured thousands of gladiators, and the games could last for several days. But these were not just bloody battles. For the Romans, gladiator matches were something big. They saw in them the embodiment of Roman virtues: courage, fortitude, fearlessness before death. Gladiators going to their death symbolized the spirit of Rome, its indomitability and greatness. In addition, funeral games also had religious significance. It was believed that the blood of gladiators pacified the spirits of the deceased and provided them with a favorable position in the afterlife. In a way, it was a sacrifice in honor of the dead. Sky burial. Sky burial is one of the most intriguing and mystical rites of ancient China. This ritual was closely associated with the ancient Chinese deeply held beliefs in the afterlife and the importance of providing comfort to the deceased ruler in his new reality. The supreme ruler, or son of heaven as he was often called, was more than just a monarch for his subjects. He was a mediator between earth and heaven, a symbol of harmony and order. The death of such a ruler was a significant and turning point event that required special rituals. The main idea of the sky burial was to surround the deceased monarch with everything necessary for a comfortable life in another world. To do this, a large number of servants were buried with him, believing that they would serve him and satisfy all his needs in the afterlife. Preserved archaeological evidence suggests that such burials were indeed practiced. The tombs were real underground palaces with halls, corridors, and chambers filled with art, weapons, jewelry, and even food. But the most touching and at the same time creepy thing is the people buried with the ruler, who were probably voluntarily or forcibly selected to accompany their sovereign. Rite of the Gray Masks. Hidden in the mystical jungles of Central America among the mighty trees and wet greenery was the ancient city of Tikal. This city, one of the most majestic cities of Maya, witnessed one of the most unusual and mysterious rituals: the Rite of the Gray Masks. Once every 10 years, when the first rays of dawn touched the tops of the pyramids, the inhabitants of Tikal gathered in the main square of the city to perform an ancient rite. Men, women, and even children put masks on their faces made of special clay, thin and fragile like glass. These masks deprived them of the ability to speak, turning each into a silent guardian of their secrets. For a month, those wearing masks did not communicate with each other. They were silent, listening to the whispers of the jungle and the sounds of nature, trying to find a connection with the gods. The townspeople believed that by wearing a mask, they were offering their faces to the gods, giving them their fears, hopes, and dreams. At the end of the month, on the summer solstice, the inhabitants of Tikal gathered at the foot of the main pyramid. At the moment when the sun reached its climax, everyone took off their mask and threw it into the fire, which the priests had previously lit. The flame destroyed the masks, symbolizing the liberation of the soul from earthly shackles. Some of these rituals are still shrouded in secrecy, forcing us to think about the limits of human cruelty and faith. Indian pata, age 500 years old. A pata, or sword bracelet, is an amazing type of weapon that came to us from the Middle Ages and served not only as a protection for the warrior's hand, but was also a dangerous attack tool. Pata has a unique structure. A long, straight blade is connected to a tight-fitting bracelet. This allowed the warrior to make powerful and accurate blows, as well as block enemy blows using metal protection on his hand. Pat's special feature is its complex design. The blade of the sword was often decorated with engravings and inlays, and the handle and bracelet could be made of expensive metals and stones. Pata, despite its unusual and complex nature, was very popular among Indian warriors, especially the cavalry. It served not only as a tool for battles, but also as a symbol of the status, power, and skill of its owner. This rare and unique ancient Indian relic is a shining testament to the art and craftsmanship of ancient blacksmiths and gunsmiths. Aztec macuahuitl, age 600 years. The Aztec macuahuitl is not just a weapon, it is a symbol of the greatness and power of the Aztec Empire. A combination of ruthless efficiency and sacred meaning. It is shaped like a wooden sword, but its peculiarity is that the blade is made from sharp fragments of obsidian, a volcanic glass that the Aztecs used along with metals. Macuahuitl was not just a military weapon, but also a spiritual attribute. According to legend, the god of war and the sun Huitzilopochtli himself used this sword. It could cut a man in half with one blow, and its amazing cutting ability was so great that it was believed that it could cut off the head of a horse with one movement. Despite its effectiveness, the macuahuitl also had symbolic meaning. In Aztec culture, wars were often fought not to destroy the enemy, but to capture prisoners, who were then sacrificed to the gods. Thus, this sword became an instrument connecting the earthly and the divine, war and religion. Making macuahuitl was a complex process. To create the blade, it was necessary to select the sharpest and highest quality fragments of obsidian. They were then inserted into a wooden base and secured with natural resins. Japanese katana. Age: 800 years old. When we hear the word katana, an image of a majestic samurai instantly appears before our eyes, ready to defend the honor and dignity of his master. But a katana is not just a sword. This is the history of Japan, a reflection of its spirit, culture, and philosophy. Each katana is born in fire and hammers. The process of creating it is a meditative art that requires incredible focus, skill, and patience. Steel forging, metal lamination, precise heat treatment, each stage gives the blade its unique qualities: sharpness, strength, and flexibility. The blade of the katana is curved, which allows the warrior to deliver powerful slashing blows. The effectiveness of this sword is so great that it has become a legend not only in Japan but also abroad. However, despite its combat power, the katana also serves as a spiritual weapon. Samurai believe that the soul of a warrior is in his sword. A katana is not just a bladed weapon. This is art, culture, spirituality. For centuries, master blacksmiths have perfected their craft, passing the secrets from generation to generation. Each katana has its own history, its own battle scars, its own soul. Ulfbert swords. Age: 1,000 years. Among the many archaeological finds associated with the Vikings, the swords of Ulfbert occupy a special place. These swords, made around the 9th to 10th centuries, are famous for their unique strength and quality of steel, sometimes surpassing even some modern examples. Ulfbert is not just a name, this is a quality brand. This is the designation that was forged on the blade of most of these swords. But who or what is behind this name is still a matter of debate. Some researchers believe that Ulfbert is the name of a craftsman or forge. Others believe that it is a kind of brand that guarantees the highest standard of quality. The secret of these swords lies not only in their origin. The methods used to make them are also amazing. The steel used in Ulfbert's swords was purified with incredible precision, which in turn made them incredibly strong and flexible at the same time. The secret of forging these swords still remains unrevealed. Some experts argue that the manufacturing process may have used techniques that were forgotten and only recovered several centuries later. These swords were not just weapons, they were a symbol of status, power, and wealth. Owning Ulfbert's sword was a sign of high status in Viking society. Philippine dagger kris. Age: 1,500 years. The Philippine kris is not just a bladed weapon, it is a true icon of Asian weaponry with a rich and mystical history. The peculiarity of this dagger lies in its blade. Wavy and curved lines not only give it a unique look, but also indicate the complexity of the forging technique. This dagger originally appeared in the Malay Archaeological region and was widely distributed among the Muslim peoples of Southeast Asia. In the Philippines, the kris became a symbol of power and spirituality, and its owner was often considered protected from evil spirits. The blade of the kris has a special meaning. It is believed that the number of waves on the blade indicates the spiritual strength of the wearer. Each wave, or lock, represents a separate element or spirit. This feature makes each kris unique. It is also said that forging a kris requires a special ritual. The craftsman creating such a weapon had to observe strict fasting and prayer to ensure his work received maximum protection and power. Often crafted from different types of metal, the blade demonstrates the art of forging and folding the metal, giving each kris a unique character. Roman gladius. Age: 2,000 years. Gladius is a symbol of the power and prosperity of the ancient Roman Empire. Small but deadly effective, the gladius was the primary bladed weapon of Rome's legionaries as they fought in conquests that stretched from the desert sands of Africa to the cold mountains of Britain. The straight double-edged sword, 60 to 80 centimeters long, was ideally suited for close combat. The gladius was designed to thrust rather than cut, allowing Roman soldiers to inflict fatal wounds on opponents even while wearing armor. As the Roman Empire grew and evolved, so did the gladius. From earlier models such as the Gladius Hispaniensis, which is believed to have been borrowed from the Iberian tribes, to more recent versions such as the Gladius Pompei. The finds of these swords are real historical relics that tell us about the greatness of the Roman military machine. Each gladius has its own story, stories of battles, heroism, victories, and defeats. However, the gladius is not only a weapon, it is also an important cultural symbol indicating the role of Rome in the formation of Western civilization. The swords, which were found on fallen legionnaires or in temples as religious offerings, reflect the spirit of that era, an era of heroes, intrigue, and great conquests. Celtic sword, age 2,000 years. When it comes to Celtic culture, many imagine ancient myths, druids, and mysterious stone circles. However, the Celts were also masters of forging, and their swords bear witness to this skill. Long, with a curved handle and a decorative guard, the Celtic sword was an art and a weapon at the same time. These swords not only served for combat, but also played the role of symbols of social status and religious purpose. Found from the British Isles to Germany, Celtic swords are often accompanied by finds of ornate scabbards, which speaks to the importance the Celts attached to their weapons. Inlaid with gold and silver and adorned with intricate patterns, these swords were more than just tools of war. They were symbols of power. But what makes the Celtic sword so unique is its forging. The Celts used methods of hardening and folding metal, which made their weapons remarkably durable for the time. Many archaeological finds show that even after 2,000 years, swords have retained their sharpness. Greek Xiphus, age 2,400 years. When you mention ancient Greece, memories come alive thanks to the great philosophers, the Olympic Games, and mythical gods. However, among the symbols of this great civilization is the Greek short sword, Xiphus. With a curved blade about 60 centimeters long, the Xiphus was one of the weapons of choice for the Greek hoplite infantrymen. This sword was designed for quick slashing and thrusting techniques in the close ranks of the phalanx. Its shape was inspired by the swords of the Eastern peoples that Greece encountered during its military campaigns. Archaeological finds of Xiphus are often accompanied by beautiful scabbards decorated with images of gods, heroes, and scenes from everyday life. In the hands of an experienced warrior, this sword became a deadly weapon. In battles such as Marathon or Thermopylae, the Xiphus proved effective in allowing the Greeks to achieve victory over numerically superior opponents. Today, these ancient swords are valuable exhibits in museums as well as objects of interest for collectors and researchers. Bronze swords from China. Age 2,500 years. When it comes to ancient weapons, China, as one of the oldest civilizations in the world, offers us amazing examples of craftsmanship. Among them, bronze swords occupy a special place, which testify to the splendor and complexity of ancient Chinese culture. Bronze Age in China, which began around the 21st century BC, brought innovations to metalworking, which gave impetus to the creation of unique weapons. These swords were often decorated with intricate engravings reflecting religious, astronomical, and natural motifs. One of the most famous bronze swords was found in the tomb of Marquis Yi of Xing, dating back to 433 BC. This sword, although it spent more than 2,000 years in the ground, amazed scientists with its excellent condition. The blade was still sharp, and there were practically no traces of corrosion on its surface. This quality testifies to the high level of skill of Chinese blacksmiths and the secrets they used to protect the metal from oxidation. Assyrian arrows. Age 3,000 years. The Assyrian Empire, centered in modern-day Iraq, dominated the Middle East for centuries. Its military power was legendary, and arrows held a special place in its arsenal. These arrows were unusually strong and long, providing great penetrating power. Made of wood with iron or bronze tips, they could pierce even thick enemy shields. In the hands of an experienced archer, they became deadly weapons. In Assyria, the art of archery was believed to be a divine gift. Archers held a high position in the army and were often depicted on reliefs and steles demonstrating their exploits. Assyrian arrows not only served as effective military weapons, but also became a symbol of the power and dominance of the Assyrian Empire in the ancient world. Bone spears from Germany. Age, 400,000 years. Among the archaeological treasures found in Germany, one of the most amazing and mysterious are sharpened bone spears. These unique ancient weapons represent important evidence of the life and skills of the primitive people of Europe. Discovered in the Schoningen area in the 1990s, these bone spears are estimated to be 400,000 years old and are among the oldest known examples of hunting weapons. Their creators, the ancestors of modern man, lived in an era when giant mammals ruled Europe. These spears were not just primitive weapons. They demonstrate amazing skill and understanding of aerodynamics. Straight and smooth, with a well-honed tip, they were ideal for hunting large animals. These weapons were also surprisingly durable and resistant, indicating the ancient people's deep knowledge of bone processing. The fact that these spears were made of bone rather than stone or wood speaks to the importance of the material. Bone is a strong and elastic material that can retain its shape even under severe impact. This makes bone spears an ideal weapon for hunting fast and powerful animals such as deer or even mammoths. Stone knives from Kenya. Age, more than 500,000 years. On the vast plains of East Africa, deep in the Kenyan land, archaeologists have encountered ancient treasures that have revolutionized our understanding of early human history. These were stone knives, carefully shaped and sharpened. They became evidence of the amazing skill and intelligence of our ancestors. Their approximate age is 1.76 million years. Their shape and structure indicate that they were used for prey cutting and processing materials. The origins of these knives are linked to a culture known as the Acheulean, which flourished during the time of Homo erectus. The incredible skill with which these stone tools were created shows that the human brain underwent significant development at this time, allowing for the creation of more complex and effective tools. Each knife was unique and reflected the specific skills and preferences of its creator. From the shape and size of the blade to the sharpening methods, every aspect of these tools has been carefully considered. While the past cannot return, it will always live on in our memories and historical findings. Data archive. When a mine is no longer in use, it becomes an empty space with no particular purpose. However, with stable temperatures and humidity, abandoned mines can be ideal places to store data. In 2020, GitHub moved over 21 terabytes of open-source code to the Archive Code Vault, located in a mothballed coal mine in northern Norway. The digital materials are expected to survive there for at least 1,000 years, turning mines into underground libraries where future generations can access the technological legacy of our time. A book with a surprise. A Bible with a secret compartment for a firearm is a unique combination of religious text and gunsmithing. This unusual artifact was made for the Venetian Doge Francesco Morosini in the 17th century. A secret mechanism allowed a miniature firearm to be hidden inside the book, and a silk bookmark served as a trigger. It is difficult to say whether Morosini used this Bible for its intended purpose, but he was famous for his sharp mind and caution, which may have contributed to his long life. The Doge lived to be 74 years old, which was quite a respectable age for that time. This Bible combines the engineering mastery of the era and shows how powerful people of that time sought to combine self-defense tools with everyday objects. Melted steps. The stairs at the Temple of Hathor in Dendera raise many questions among archaeologists and researchers. These steps, located in one of the best-preserved temples of ancient Egypt, look as if they were exposed to incredibly high temperatures, which could have led to their deformation and partial melting. The surface of the steps shows unusual bends and recessed areas that are not typical for the normal wear of stone structures. There are various theories to explain this phenomenon. One hypothesis suggests that the steps could have been damaged as a result of some unknown thermal impact, for example, ritual fires or processes associated with ancient technologies. Another theory points to possible construction errors. If the stones for the steps were formed directly on site from a liquid solution, then the interruption of the hardening process could have led to an irregular shape and softness of the material. Scientists are still studying this phenomenon, adding another mystery to the rich heritage of ancient Egypt. Ancient labyrinth. Modern remote sensing methods give archaeology new tools for understanding the past. One striking example is the study of the area around Rujim el Hiri, an ancient complex of stone circles northeast of the Sea of Galilee. This mysterious monument clearly shows how satellite images allow us to look at the landscape from a completely different angle. Scientists analyzed photos of the area within a radius of 30 kilometers and discovered numerous megalithic structures, massive circles with thick walls and mysterious flower fences near rivers. All of them, according to one hypothesis, could have been elements of irrigation, defense, or cattle pens. In addition, the images show mounds of different shapes and sizes. Perhaps these are burials or signal hills. No less curious are the results of geological measurements. It seems that the territory itself has shifted over the past millennia, which is why the hypothesis about the astronomical purpose of Rujum el-Hiri has come into question. Satellite images show multi-layered construction and archaeological palimpsest, where later structures were built on top of earlier ones. Such studies open the door to the distant past. By comparing satellite data, excavation results, and geophysical analysis, scientists hope to reconstruct a picture of the life of the ancient inhabitants of the Levant and better understand why they erected such monumental stone labyrinths and surrounded them with complex agricultural systems. Erie Harp. A harp over 3,000 years old is a unique artifact of ancient Egypt stored in the collection of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. This exquisite musical instrument dates back to 1390 to 1295 BC, which corresponds to the reign of the New Kingdom. The harp is made of wood and is 82 centimeters long. Its neck is topped with a sculpted image of the head of a Nubian captive. This is not just a decorative element, but a symbolic image probably associated with the triumph of the Egyptians in military campaigns. The strings of the harp, visually tying the head of the captive, may be a metaphor for conquest. The preservation of the object is amazing, given its age. Such instruments were used not only for entertainment, but also in ritual ceremonies, which emphasizes their importance in the culture of ancient Egypt. Dinosaur Road. At Dewar's Farm Quarry in Oxfordshire, UK, scientists have unearthed about 200 dinosaur footprints dating back more than 166 million years. An international team from the Universities of Oxford and Birmingham studied the site in June 2024, trying to understand how the ancient dinosaurs moved and interacted with each other. Of particular interest were 5 main tracks, which form a kind of dino trail. 4 of them belong to large herbivorous sauropods, including Cetiosaurus, a dinosaur related to Diplodocus up to 18 meters long. Another chain was left by an approximately 9-meter Megalosaurus, a formidable predator with 3-fingered clawed paws. In one area, the tracks of a herbivore and a predator intersected in the mud, which provides a unique chance to find out whether their paths could have crossed not only in time, but also in space. Paleontologists note the excellent condition of the fossilized footprints. The prints show deformations of the soil under the weight of the paws. This allows us to estimate the size of the dinosaurs and recreate the conditions of the ancient lagoon, which was filled with traces of burrows, shells, and plant remains. To record all the details, the researchers took 20,000 photographs and created 3D models using drones. Unusual Warhammer. This unusual warhammer from Saxony is a unique example of Renaissance weaponry. Its design is amazing. The warhammer combines 5 elements: a hammer, an axe, a trident, a pick, and a retractable spike. The spike is activated by turning the handle, which makes the design not only functional, but also very sophisticated from an engineering point of view. According to a surviving document, this weapon was purchased in July 1593 for the Saxon court. The price was 30 thalers, and the author of the work was the famous master Balthazar Hacker, whose products were distinguished by exceptional complexity and aesthetics. Perhaps the hammer was intended for Christian II, who was only 10 years old at the time, or for the regent Friedrich Wilhelm I. The weapon has been preserved in excellent condition and is now on display in the Dresden Armory. The length of the hammer is 79 centimeters and the weight is almost 2.5 kilograms. Crystal Jar. This thin-walled jar for cosmetics or perfumes is a magnificent example of the skill of ancient craftsmen. It was carved from a single piece of rock crystal, which in itself speaks of the high level of processing of the material and the aesthetic sense of its creators. The jar, created in the 1st century, comes from the Eastern Mediterranean, a region known for its ancient traditions in glass production and crystal processing. Its exquisite design and refined forms, complemented by gold elements, indicate that this object was intended for people of high social status. probably for storing expensive oils or perfumes. Despite its modest size, only 8.4 centimeters in height, the jar embodies the wealth and sophistication of that time. Armor made of 6,000 scales. Archaeologists in China's Jiangxi province have made a surprising discovery. A scaly composite armor that is over 2,000 years old has been found in the tomb of Liu He, the Western Han Dynasty ruler Hai Hong. Not only does the find demonstrate the advanced craftsmanship of the Han Dynasty, but it is also completely different from the typical single-material armor of the time. According to a report from the Provincial Institute of Archaeology and Cultural Relics, the plates were made of lacquered iron, copper, and leather, with many measuring just 1 centimeter in width and 0.2 centimeters in thickness. The restoration took about 2 years, with experts assembling about 6,000 pieces found piled up in the tomb's armory, alongside swords and knives. According to Yan Jun, the leader of the excavation team, their arrangement and size demonstrate an incredible level of craftsmanship previously unknown in Han Dynasty armor. Clay seals. Scientists excavating the Tol-e-Sanghi site in southern Iran discovered 17 tiny clay objects about 9,000 years old. Experts believe that these are unique seals for sealing wicker baskets, probably made from reeds. Interestingly, a similar packing tradition is still preserved in some parts of the region. The site itself is located in a small mountain valley, convenient for early agriculture. Radiocarbon dating of the remains of buildings and hearths showed that people lived here from 7,050 to 6,650 BC. Items of various sizes, from 12 to 24 millimeters in diameter, were found in the same trench as charcoal samples dating back to the early pre-pottery Neolithic. The oldest map of the world has been deciphered. The British Museum has revealed the secret of one of the oldest maps of the world, a clay tablet from Babylon, created about 3,000 years ago. The so-called Imago Mundi, found in the city of Abu Haba, Sipar, in Iraq, has been kept in the museum's collection since 1882. The tablet depicts a simplified whole world as imagined by the inhabitants of Mesopotamia. The center is occupied by a rectangle of the Euphrates River. Around it are circles and rectangles denoting cities, including Babylon. Everything is surrounded by a bitter river, the salty waters of the Persian Gulf, and the Mediterranean Sea. According to cuneiform specialist Irving Finkel, this is a schematic reflection of the space where people lived and died, and beyond it, according to the tablet, there were 8 remote regions. The Akkadian text on the top and back of the map tells the story of the creation of the world and recounts one version of the story of the Great Flood. According to it, around 1800 BC, God commanded King Utnapishtim to build an ark, the remains of which were supposedly left behind a bitter river on a mountainside. A missing fragment of the tablet, discovered in 1995, helped scientists decipher the story more accurately. In addition, the Babylonian god Marduk is mentioned, as well as fantastic creatures such as the Scorpion Man and the lion-headed bird Anzu, confirming the rich mythological world of the Babylonians. Medieval chair. The Trossingen chair is a rare and valuable example of early medieval furniture. This wooden chair was found in a man's burial chamber in Trossingen, Germany, and dates back to around 580 AD. Made from maple and ash, it demonstrates the high level of craftsmanship of the ancient craftsmen. The chair is remarkably well preserved due to the fact that the burial was located in a marshy area, which created favorable conditions for preventing the decomposition of organic materials. The wood, although darkened over time, has retained its structure, allowing archaeologists to study the construction and style of manufacture. The find is in the collection of the Archaeological Museum of Baden-Württemberg in Konstanz, Germany. Fortress in the middle of the desert. The ruins of the ancient Berber Khazar Draya, lost in an ocean of sand dunes, are an amazing architectural monument and evidence of the life of people who developed desert territories. This Khazar, located in Algeria, was hidden under layers of sand for a long time, which allowed it to be well preserved to this day. Khazar Draya is a traditional fortified village typical of the North African region. It was built to protect residents and their property from raids and harsh desert conditions. The fortifications include massive walls and towers that not only protected the inhabitants, but also served as shelter from the scorching sun. The date of construction of the Khazar remains unknown, which gives it additional mystery. Modern technologies such as satellite imagery allow us to explore the ruins and their surroundings from above, opening a new perspective on the architectural heritage of the Berbers. Ancient Spa Complex. In Pompeii, an ancient Roman city at the foot of Vesuvius, archaeologists have discovered a luxurious home that they believe belonged to an influential citizen. The owner, researchers believe, used the house not only for receptions and entertainment, but also to demonstrate high status or political support during elections. The complex contained thermal baths designed for about 30 people who could move between a caldarium, hot room, tepidarium, warm, and frigidarium, cold. The cold room connected to the courtyard turned out to be especially impressive. The luxurious banquet hall is decorated with frescoes based on the Trojan War, including the scene of the meeting of Helen and Paris. The hall itself was nicknamed the Black Room due to the dark walls that hid the soot from burning oil lamps. From the hall, a staircase leads to the upper floor, and on the arches, there are still pairs of gladiators drawn in charcoal and a stylized phallus. According to scientists, such details emphasize the social status of the owner, turning the house into a kind of stage for the public. Guests could relax in the baths after feasts, and the artistic details created the effect of presence in a mythological setting. Box with code lock. This is a unique 12th century artifact created by Iranian craftsmen. This exquisite object not only served as a storage unit, but also demonstrated the outstanding engineering skills of its time. The box has 4 double dials, each with 16 positions. The combination of all possible settings creates an impressive number of options: 16 to the power of 8 or 4 billion S 294 million S 967,296. This made the box extremely secure since it is almost impossible to guess the code. The materials from which this item is made include brass, gold, and silver. The ornamentation and Arabic inscription covering the surface emphasize the sophistication of the work and testify to the high status of the owner. The box is now kept in the Copenhagen Museum, where it attracts visitors as an outstanding example of technology and decorative art of the medieval East. The date of its creation is determined to be around 1200. The legendary Golden Horse. Not long ago, the news that the legendary golden horse of King Mithridates Eupator was allegedly found near Anapa, Russia, was spreading across social networks. It is noteworthy that similar messages had already appeared in 2021, turning out to be an April Fool's joke. Now, excavations underway in the area of the village of Anapskaya have once again forced people to discuss this story. During rescue operations at a site for a future kindergarten, archaeologists discovered a burial ground about 2,000 years old. In one of the burials, they found not only human remains, but also horses. In others, horse skeletons, glass and ceramic dishes, various beads, as well as weapons and harnesses. Items, including beads made of amber, carnelian, and faience, indicate the connections of local tribes with the ancient world. Among the finds was a scarab, a symbol of rebirth among the ancient Egyptians. Of particular interest were the glass vessels, which were widespread throughout the periphery of the Roman Empire thanks to the improvement of blowing techniques. Despite the excitement, there is no direct evidence that this is indeed the golden horse of Mithridates. Scientists emphasize that legends easily grow, and the rich burial of a noble person may well acquire fantastic features over time. The oldest book in Europe. In January 1962, during excavations in the Derveni area near Thessaloniki, Greek archaeologists discovered an ancient papyrus in the funeral pyre of a noble Macedonian. Dating back to around 340–320 BC, it was the first scroll to be found on the Greek mainland. Because the manuscript is literary in nature, UNESCO has recognized it as the oldest book known in Europe. The discovered scroll was named the Derveni Papyrus after the place where it was found. It contains reflections on religious rites related to the fate of the soul after death, and discussions of a lost poetic text attributed to the legendary Orpheus, a singer and musician from Greek mythology. Researchers believe that the unknown author belonged to the circle of followers of the philosopher Anaxagoras and wrote for adherents of Orphism, a special religious movement, supposedly monotheistic and focused on the purification of the soul. It was the fire of the funeral pyre that preserved the papyrus fragments from the damp soil, but at the same time seriously damaged them. Scientists managed to extract about 266 charred parts and later assembled them into 26 columns of text without the lower halves of the lines. A full publication of the deciphered manuscript appeared only half a century later. A child's horrible death. In the Chinese province of Henan, archaeologists have found the remains of a child that are 8,000 years old. Judging by the fragments of leg bones and ribs, the age at the time of death was 8 to 10 years. It is noteworthy that in 6 places on the leg bones there are notches, presumably made by tools. Why the ancient inhabitants went through such a procedure is unknown. Perhaps we are talking about a ritual associated with the child's illness, or about preparing the bones for some kind of products. The remains were discovered at the Jiahu Monument, which belongs to the Neolithic Pali Gang culture. During the excavations here, hundreds of graves and many objects were found, from bone flutes to traces of a fermented drink made of rice, honey, and plant components. In total, scientists examined 109 individuals, but such notches were found only on this child. Signs of inflammatory processes were also found on the bone, which could indicate chronic diseases. Paleopathologists were unable to make an accurate diagnosis. Scientists speculate that the sick child may have been given special attention, perhaps because special cuts were believed to spare him suffering in the afterlife. However, this remains a hypothesis, as the skull, vertebrae, and other parts of the skeleton were not preserved, and the real reason for such a practice is difficult to establish. Time capsule in a cesspool. Archaeologists from the Netherlands, working in the center of the city of Alkmaar, have discovered impressive objects in an ancient cesspool, shedding light on everyday life in the 15th century. Among the finds, a wooden shoe made of birch, which is not grown in the country, stands out. This is a rare clog, which, according to archaeologist Nancy de Jong, has a complex design with a double heel. In total, only 44 such examples are known in the Netherlands and Belgium, and most of them are worse preserved. In addition, scientists extracted from the pit a finely made oak grain measure, a unique artifact because previously only fragments of such containers were found in the region. Until now, they were known mainly from historical evidence. Now, researchers have received material evidence of the existence of such measures in everyday urban life. The cesspool itself dates back to 1450 to 1558. At first, it served as a latrine and then was abandoned during the construction of new houses. Scientists note that residents of that time already practiced a circular economy, reusing or recycling materials and often burning waste for heating. Not ordinary housewives. On the west coast of Norway in the province of Fitjar, archaeologists have excavated 3 burials from the beginning of the 9th century that belonged to influential women. The graves were rich in luxurious jewelry and rare coins, which indicates the high status of the buried. The items found are striking in their quality of preservation. One of the women was buried in a crevice of a rock and had jewelry, probably from England or Ireland, indicating the extensive external connections of the Vikings. In another grave, 11 silver coins, beads, tools for processing fabric, and a bronze key were found, a symbol of leadership in the family and control over the economy. The coin from Hedeby, minted in the southern part of Denmark, additionally confirms the extensive trade routes of the era. The luxury and diversity of the found artifacts emphasize not only the wealth of the local community, but also the fact that representatives of the nobility had serious influence in trade and crafts. $1 million. Who will decipher the ancient script? The script of the ancient Indus Valley civilization remains unsolved to this day. Recently, Indian official Muthuval Karunanidhi Stalin offered $1 million for their decipherment. According to Hindustan Times, this impressive reward should inspire archaeologists, linguists, and cryptographers. The head of the state of Tamil Nadu recalled that after a century of research, no one has made any progress in understanding these mysterious signs, supposedly related to the Tamil language. The strange symbols of the Indus civilization, found back in the 1920s by Sir John Marshall, remain an unsolved mystery. It was then that Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro were excavated, but the key to their script has still not been found. Preserved body. In 1719, miners at the Fallon copper mine in Sweden made a sinister discovery. They pulled out the body of a man without legs from a flooded area, but it was remarkably well preserved. Judging by his clothes and appearance, it seemed that he had died just a few days ago. This looked very strange considering that the abandoned mine had not been used for many years. The body was put on public display, hoping to find relatives or acquaintances. Soon, Margareta Olsdotter appeared, claiming that in front of her was her fiancé who had disappeared 42 years ago. When the water was pumped out, it turned out that the deceased was soaked in a solution of vitriol, copper sulfate, which protected his remains from rapid decomposition. However, as it dried out, this natural preservation began to petrify the body and then disintegrate. Alas, the fate of the unfortunate man did not end with a simple burial. Local residents, shocked by such a rare phenomenon, kept his body for another 30 years for the amusement of the public. Only then did they bury him in the church. Sometime later, during another reconstruction, the body was discovered again. This time, they decided to finally bury him in the city cemetery. Lipstick from the Bronze Age. In the southeast of Iran, archaeologists have discovered perhaps the oldest lipstick in human history. The age of the find is about 3.5 thousand years. It was a small stone bottle made of the mineral chlorite in which the remains of a cosmetic product were preserved. It turns out that they were striving for bright red, sparkling, and fragrant lips. The lipstick is based on hematite powder, red iron ore, which changes color from black to blood red when crushed. Other minerals were additionally used: braunite, manganite, rhodonite, galena, which gave the desired shade and shine. In total, they occupied about 80% of the composition, mixing with vegetable wax. Finally, aromatic plant fibers and tiny particles of quartz were added to the lipstick so that the lips not only acquired color but also smelled fragrant and shimmered in the sun. Scientists believe that the elongated shape of the bottle was convenient for use with a bronze mirror held in the other hand. Confirmation of this can be found, for example, on the Turin Papyrus No. 55001 from Egypt, which dates back to the 12th century BC. There, a woman paints her lips or eyes using a small brush in one hand and a mirror in the other. Lost city where gold was mined. In the vicinity of Prague, archaeologists have discovered a multi-layered settlement combining artifacts from the Neolithic, Hallstatt, Latène, and medieval cultures. Over 9,000 objects were found, which led to the suspension of road construction. The earliest finds date back to the end of the 6th millennium BC. 8 long-columned houses, stone tools, and a workshop for processing polished stone. People lived here later up until the 5th century BC, as evidenced by 10 semi-underground houses from the Hallstatt and Latène periods. Among other artifacts, archaeologists have discovered exquisite ceramics with rich decor, bronze jewelry, and a handle from a drinking vessel probably brought from the Adriatic. All this indicates the existence of trade links with the southern regions. Scientists believe that the settlement was inhabited by representatives of the nobility who had access to rare resources. In addition, the researchers found several dozen round pits from the 13th century, which they believe were associated with gold exploration or mining. A large medieval gold mine was located nearby. The finds touch on several eras at once. The Cypriot Terracotta Army. In November 1929, the priest Prokopios from the village of Agia Irini near Morpho accidentally came across a clay figurine of a man while cultivating a field. Realizing the value of the find, he saved it from being plundered and informed scientists. Thus began the history of the Cypriot Terracotta Army, a unique open-air sanctuary where about 2,000 clay statues were displayed in a semicircle around the altar. According to the Swedish Archaeological expedition, among the statues there were warriors in armor, chariots, figures of bulls, and even bronze miniatures. Professor Theodoros Mavroyiannis dates the main finds to 625 BC, pointing out the details of clothing and the political situation of that period in the Mediterranean. Of the 2,000 statues found, 1,500 are now kept in the Stockholm Museum of Mediterranean and Near Eastern Antiquities. The rest are in the Cyprus Museum in Nicosia. Most Cypriots consider the removal of the artifacts to be robbery and demand that they be returned to their homeland. 3,600 years of silence. For thousands of years, the sand kept the secrets of ancient Thebes, today Luxor, until archaeologists once again looked beneath its centuries-old dust. In recent excavations at the mortuary temple of Queen Hatshepsut, scientists have discovered a system of tombs up to 3,600 years old, and with them, portals into the lives and beliefs of the ancient Egyptians. The work has been carried out with the participation of the Zahi Hawass Foundation and the Supreme Council of Antiquities of Egypt since the fall of 2022. Among the finds are bronze coins with the profile of Alexander the Great, children's toys made of baked clay, various ornaments, winged scarabs, and even carved beads. Part of the Temple of Hatshepsut, rock-cut tombs from the Middle Kingdom, and the remains of the Asasif necropolis from the time of the Ptolemies were also discovered here. The burial shafts date back to the 17th dynasty. One of them contained a wooden coffin with the remains of a child. All this helps to better understand how people lived, believed, and died. A special find is the tomb of Jehuti Mes, a courtier associated with Queen Titishri. The inscription indicates that the burial dates back to the 9th year of the reign of Amosi I. Perhaps the war boughs found here indicate the military service of the owner who fought in the expulsion of the Hyksos. In November of the same year, another tomb from the Middle Kingdom with 11 sealed burials was found nearby. Archaeologists are sure that Luxor holds many more such surprises. Each new artifact, be it beads or a war bow, unobtrusively lifts the curtain on the culture and history of pharaonic Egypt. Pirates turned the village into a turtle hideaway. On the southern coast of Boa Vista Island, part of the Cape Verde archipelago, lie the ruins of an ancient fishing village called Curro Velho. Life was once in full swing here. People caught fish, harvested salt, and traded with other islands. However, a series of pirate attacks in the early 19th century forced residents to move to a more fortified city, and the village became deserted. Now, the vast sandy shore has been dubbed Santa Monica, after the Californian beach of the same name, and all that remains of the once bustling village are the remains of stone walls surrounded by sand and salt marshes. Boa Vista is only about 620 square kilometers in size, and no more than 9,000 people live there permanently. However, the island is known not only for its tourism industry and picturesque beaches, but also for its unique natural conditions. The quiet shores with abandoned houses of Curro Velho are popular with seabirds and turtles who lay their eggs in the sand. The growing tourist presence once threatened to disrupt their habitat, but environmental organizations managed to protect these areas and establish supervision of the nests. The name Boa Vista translates as beautiful view, and it truly reflects the charm of the island. And Curro Velho itself, founded by the Portuguese in the 17th century, seems to preserve the memory of those who once conquered these lands and fought for survival in difficult natural conditions for centuries. Drank from her father's skull. Rosamund, daughter of the Gepid king Cunimund, was born in the mid-6th century when her people were desperately fighting the Lombards. Alboin, the king of the Lombards, killed her father and forced Rosamund to marry him. According to legend, during a feast in Verona, he offered her wine from a goblet made from Cunimund's skull, mockingly saying, "Drink with your daddy." Deeply offended, Rosamund swore revenge. In 572, she plotted. Waiting until Alboin fell asleep after a hearty dinner, she took out his weapons and tied the sword tightly to the bed and then let in her accomplices. The king woke up, tried to fight back with a stool, but was quickly killed. After this, Rosamund fled to Ravenna, where she agreed to marry the exarch Longinus. However, she had a longtime lover, the squire Helmigus, according to one version, Alboin's half-brother. When her feelings for Helmigus faded, Rosamund decided to poison him with wine, but he noticed the catch and, holding a sword to her throat, forced her to drink the poison herself. Thus ended the tragic story of a woman whose life and actions were determined by the thirst for revenge. This tragedy, preserved in medieval chronicles, became a symbol of merciless passion and fatal fate in the early history of the barbarian kingdoms on Italian soil. And I would like to once again ask you to support the channel with your thumb up, subscription, and kind comment. This will speed up the release of new videos. Thank you for your views. Bye, everyone.